This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, heading into a big sports weekend. Great to have you all with us. Shout out to the podcast listeners and everyone with us on our live YouTube stream. YouTubers, what's up in chat? Hit us up. Thumbs up if you don't mind. And if you're just finding us, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. We are here Monday to Friday, live at 1 p.m. on YouTube, and podcast uploaded right around 3:30. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We got a packed show today. We got a game from last night to discuss, an unfortunate loss for the Winnipeg Jets in Vegas against a pretty damn good Vegas Golden Knights team to kick off the road trip, and a big one tomorrow afternoon against the upstart Arizona Coyotes. Ken Wiebe's going to jump on with us a little bit later on to break that all down. And a big weekend for the Moose. We've had a great start to the season. Dan Fink will tee up the matinees on Saturday and Sunday with the Herd coming up as well for our hockey talk. Of course, we got playoff football in the Canadian Football League. Marshall Ferguson from TSN is going to jump on the show. And it's not Friday without a look into Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's NFL notebook. Some big matchups on the docket on Sunday. We'll break those down with Lee, and then, of course, we'll finish it off with a marble race. So stick around, and if you haven't been around for the marble race, just 2:45 or so, we'll open up registration. Be here live on YouTube for your chance to win one of the Winnipeg Sports Talk hoodies. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, got to thank the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Our friends at Coolbet Canada. Brand new lock shop just dropped. All of our picks for Week 9 in the NFL. Check that out either at Edmonton Sports Talk or subscribe to the Lock Shop Pod wherever you get it. Our friends at Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, the Winnipeg Jets, and Little Brown Jug. Vita Health Fresh Market, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Nick and Nicky DQ Group, and of course their new Pita Pit out in Niverville. Canadian Club, feels like a Canadian Club kind of night to be honest. Manitoba Battery, Aquatech, Modern Man Barber Shop, and we will get into a why not question of the day for the gang at Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Michael Remis in here. And Remo, not a great result for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, not a bad effort. I thought they got better as the game went on, as often happens in Vegas. But stop me if you've heard this before. Special teams not good enough, and the difference in a game last night.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't feeling so great about going into the game against Vegas. Vegas has owned the Jets now the last 6 after last night. I don't know. Day off in Vegas has to mention that. You're putting yourself in a tough spot there. And we've been talking about special teams all week, and they were definitely the story again yesterday. The Jets 1 for 5 on the power play. Vegas 2 for 4. And you look at the Jets special teams on the season, the power play is 25th at 12.8%. And the penalty kill, which was very good last year, is a not nice 30th, 69.4%. Not great, and it's tough. They're playing solid at 5-on-5, but the special teams, when again giving up, they did get a power play goal yesterday, finally, first one in I think 4, but they only have 4 on the year, or 5 on the year now, and they're giving up power play goals every game, and they gave up 2 yesterday on a 4-minute penalty, and it was. I mean, I thought they had a shot, when they tied it up with the Connor goal, but Vegas came right down and took the lead right back.
They were so opportunistic. I mean, it wasn't like Vegas just dominated the whole game. I mean, I think at 5-on-5, again, stop me if you've heard this before, the Jets were pretty good. listen, they got to start hitting the net on their shots. I'll say that. I mean, there was plenty of missed opportunities that Logan Thompson didn't even have to make a save. And listen, when you consider the way Thompson played against Winnipeg the last time out in the start that he had last night, maybe they felt they needed absolutely the perfect shot. But I still think Winnipeg could be a little bit better, more efficient and effective when they have their opportunities. You can't say the same thing about Vegas because, I mean, you look back to that first goal. I mean, a play starting just a turnover deep in the offensive zone, bang, bang, bang. And the Jets just sometimes were just a step behind Vegas when it came to their transition game last night. And that was a big, big part of it. But listen, Kyle Connor scores a beautiful goal. The team's right back in it. And we've talked a lot about the power play. I mean, it was the penalty kill that didn't get it done. And listen, I didn't think Connor Hellebuyck had a great game last night. I mean, I'm not sure you could go and pick out one particular goal you'd like to have back. Probably all of them, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, there wasn't like a softie or a really bad one, but you kind of need your goaltender, especially in a situation like that, to step up and, take one away from the other club. And I didn't think that happened last night. It'll be interesting to see how they handle. We'll talk to Ken about this when Laurent Brossoit starts on this road trip. Does he go Saturday afternoon in Arizona tomorrow, or do they put Hellebuyck right back in there and give LB the start against the St. Louis Blues? Although when you think about it, with back-to-back games next weekend on Friday, or no, sorry, that's 2 weeks later. So, the 17th, 18th are the back-to-back games. So, anyways, we'll get into that. But I thought Hellebuyck he wasn't quite as good as he'd been over the course of the last week after that rough start. But, man, they made the most of their opportunities. And every time the Jets made, a significant mistake to give them a little bit of an edge or an opportunity, they made it happen. And that's a big reason why that team is 10-0-1 right now in the season, and the Jets are sitting at 500.
Yeah, it seemed like whenever the Jets made a mistake, like everyone going off the ice at the same time for a line change, Logan Thompson finds Mark Stone, who finds Marchessault, one-on-one with the goalie, and he shoots in stride. That's tough for any goalie to pick up. William Karlsson, the first one, a beautiful tic-tac-toe passing play. It was at Dorofayev, putting it through Dylan DeMello's skates there, and Karlsson's wide open, and William Karlsson scoring against the Jets. That's giving me flashbacks to the playoffs where he scored in 4 of the 5 games, and he had 2 points. 2 points yesterday. The second Marchessault goal, the puck goes in front from Barbashev. Sandberg tries to knock it out of the air. Tips it right to the slot, and there's nobody. I don't know, no trailer there. No one's there, and Marchessault again one-on-one with Hellebuyck, and he puts it past him. And, we talked yesterday, Elliot Friedman put in his 32 thoughts that Sandberg was one of 3 NHL players who hadn't been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal against. Thank you, Elliot, for jinxing Dylan Sandberg. Where's the prop
bet on that? Dylan Sandberg will be on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal last night after that was put out. Mike mentioned it as well, and it had been a good start for Dylan. And that was a weird play. He got sort of clipped by, I want to say, Peter Angelo, maybe, that sort of collided with him. And anyways, it was unfortunate. But, I mean, the difference between Vegas and Winnipeg last night in a lot of ways was, their ability to make the most of Winnipeg Jet mistakes and put it in the net. Listen, I know there's people talking about Mason Appleton, and Appleton's done a lot of real positive things so far this year. But he's also taken some careless penalties, and that was a killer last night. A 1-1 game, gets his stick up, ends up getting a double minor, and it's bad enough to give up one, Remis, but for a team that had been struggling from a special team standpoint so much, when you take a double minor and get out early on both minors, it's that could just kill a team. And you mentioned the momentum that Vegas got from those 2 power plays, the momentum that the Jets lost from not being able to do much on their first few power plays as well. Unfortunately, we turned back to special teams as a massive, massive part of the Jets' inability to hang with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I mean, they're losing the special teams battle every night. They did score yesterday, Connor banking it off Perfetti and Iafallo and in, but as you said, special teams You know, they had the one, and it wasn't even like us. It wasn't even Vegas like setting up and working around. It's just like mental stuff, like everyone going off the ice at the same time, and Logan Thompson finding Stone, finding Marchessault, and the other one was Lowry had a chance in one end, shoots it. I don't know if Thompson got a piece of it, but they go straight off, and then it's a 4-on-2 the other way. So Pietrangelo takes a shot off Hellebuck, he stops it, but the rebound goes right to a Vegas player. So I mean, some of those mistakes, it's just like I think you're taught at a young age when to change, and everyone went at the same time because of the long change, and Thompson caught him off guard. As for the power play, I thought, even though they scored, I thought this power play just looks the exact same. It's Morrissey, Connor, and Scheifele standing still at the same spot, passing it around, not really taking one-timers, not taking really any shots. So I think they got to switch it up, because you look at some, JP talking about movement and confusion, and there's none of that. And I'm watching Vancouver, who scored 10 goals yesterday. You see their power play. Like, they got Paterson, JT Miller, Besser. These guys are all looping around. Quinn Hughes moving around. And it's like the Jets are like, that rod hockey where you can only go in certain spots, and others. So Connor, Morrissey, and Scheifele are stapled to their spots. And you look at other teams, it seems like anyone could be anywhere at any time. And that's just my opinion. You look at the Jets' power play, hasn't been good. And also here, this other thing I was thinking too about the Jets' power play, they've basically been running, the Jets' power play 2017-18, one of the top in the league. But who do they have? Wheeler, one of the best passers in the league. Laine, one of the best shooters. Bufflin, again, great shooter. They're kind of still running that same power play, Huss, but they don't have Wheeler, Laine, and Bufflin. So I think they've kind of have to figure out how to adapt here to the personnel that they have. But again, it's just been a broken record here with the special teams, Huss.
The one thing I'll say about the third period, listen, the Jets certainly didn't quit. I'll give them that. I mean, they played hard. I thought they generated quite a few opportunities. Obviously, they got that second goal finally on the power play. And the one thing that I saw more of on that last opportunity was some chaos in front of the net. I think they basically said, listen, we can't make it as easy as we have been for these guys. I mean, let's get to the blue paint, and we'll go from there, because this passing around the perimeter isn't working. And lo and behold, what happened? They got one in. So maybe that is a start. But an underwhelming power play, a penalty kill that was not able to get the job done at crucial moments in the game last night. And listen, that against an average team probably puts you at a real deficit. But if you're doing against a team that hasn't lost in regulation, that are the Stanley Cup champions, that are the standard in the National Hockey League right now, it's going to end up being a pretty long night. Let's hear what Coach Arniel had to say after last night's game in Las Vegas. Interim head coach Scott Arniel, just with his thoughts on the loss last night to begin the road trip.
You know what? For those first 8 minutes of that second period, we were dominating them. Hem them in the rink, and it happens. You know what? Obviously Apple didn't mean to do that. It's a 4-minute minor, but for us to give up 2 goals like we did, line changes and giving up odd man rushes that we didn't have to give up on those 2 goals, and then we did battle back, get a power play goal, and we're sitting there again real close, and bad line change again, and ends up in the back of our net. So those are on us. Obviously, those type of things you can control. They're within your own grasp to handle, and we got to be better at that.
I was going to ask about, maybe, like you said, bad line change, but Logan Thompson makes a heck of a pass.
Whatever. We had 4 guys.
Yeah.
We had 4 guys come to the bench. So I think anybody's going to make that pass if they see that the other team is sending everybody to the bench at that time. So that was just critical error by us.
Yeah, listen, I thought that was a pretty astute, honest assessment of the game. A lot of what the Vegas Golden Knights took advantage of was somewhat self-inflicted by the Winnipeg Jets. And it was the decisions. You mentioned that bad line change that they took advantage of. Great teams like Vegas, and they certainly are that, will make you pay when you're not at your best. And I thought the Jets did a lot of really positive things last night, but it's all for naught when you give a championship caliber squad opportunities the way they did last night. And then, as I said, you mix in the special teams issues that the Winnipeg Jets are having, and that's not a game you're gonna win very often. And it's such a fine line, Reem, between winning and losing at times, or just on particular shifts and particular plays that have massive impact on the game. And the one thing I'll say about Vegas that they just do and did last night much better than Winnipeg was, jumping on those opportunities and coming up big at the right moment. I mean, the amount of times where the Jets did have momentum and a pass was just a little bit off, or hit a stick, or hit a skate. Like, we didn't see a lot of that from Vegas. And listen, it is frustrating. And I know we're earlier in the season, and maybe that's something that, you build on, but they're playing at that level right now, and the Jets just can't get to that level consistently. And then when you add in some of the mistakes that Arniel just laid out, you're not winning that hockey game.
Yeah, I would agree, and we saw that in the playoffs. You make that one. You can play such a great game for 59 minutes and play even. I mean, I actually was looking at the money puck stats. Like, I found it hard to believe that the Jets were ahead on the deserve to win-o-meter and and expected goals and all that. But I was watching Kenny Rainey, and Ken goes, "I only care about actual." In terms of actual goals, the Jets, they make mistakes, and Vegas is so good. They pounce on it, and there were some nice plays. Dylan Sandberg had a great rush to Lowry. I don't even think it resulted in a shot on net there, but they're not able to capitalize on the chances that they had. So, full credit to Vegas. They've got multiple lines that can burn you great D. Logan Thompson has shown he was outplayed the Jets goalie now in 2 games. So it was a tough one, and overall for the Jets, what are they here? 4-4-2. The -5 goal differential overall, not ideal, but they're hanging in there. And who's just ahead of them in the standings has at 5-4-1, the Arizona Coyotes, who they have on Saturday, who got a win yesterday. So it was. I think there's some positives you can take away, but it's just things that we keep saying. Hey, the special teams. And what hurts them again, special teams.
Hey, I'll say this. If you had told me at the beginning of the season, knowing who the Jets were playing in the first 10 games, if you told me that Balharry was going to get injured in Game 3, if you told me that their penalty killing and power play would be at the bottom of the league, or very close to it, and that Connor Hellebuck had a tough first week of the season, I would have taken 4-4-2 in a heartbeat. So, they're still right there in the mix. The division is somewhat weak. But listen, they've got 2 regulation losses to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now you're going up against some teams that aren't the Vegas Golden Knights, and you got to make it happen. And this is a big one tomorrow against an Arizona team that they better be ready for, because they're catching some teams, whether they're catching them by surprise or they're just a heck of a lot better than they've been before. There's many new players. You got Logan Cooley, who's having an awesome rookie season. That's a team that's got real solid goaltending. We expect the Vejmelka to be in net tomorrow. So big challenge for them to get to 1-1 on the road trip and have the opportunity to come back with 2 wins out of 3 in St. Louis on Tuesday. That doesn't happen if they can't win tomorrow. Just back to Arnie for a minute. Listen, the penalty kill. We've been talking more about the power play because of how that sucked momentum from the club. But the penalty kill, getting scored on twice on that double minor, was probably the turning point in the entire game. Here's what Arniel had to say about the PK.
First, we did a really good job, and then the one later on in the second, we did a good job. It just, it's a breakdown here or there. Something happens, and it's in the back of net. I've been through these trends before.
Sure.
You got to find a way to get one of those games where you shut down the opposition and you build off of that. No different our power play. Had some real good looks tonight, and they scored a goal, and now hopefully they build off of that and go into Arizona. And I'm feeling good about it.
All right, well, there's Arnie on the PK, and obviously that power play goal, which you hope maybe opens the floodgates and gives that group a little bit more confidence going forward. I mean, the Jets did outshoot Vegas 31-26. They were all over it in the third period. Alex Iafallo in particular was a huge part of that third period, not only offensively, on the goal that they scored, but also making a huge save of his own. And I think that play in a nutshell just sort of showed that Connor Hellebuck wasn't quite at his level. I mean, a couple of them getting through, ones that don't normally, and then having to have Iafallo make an unbelievable play to prevent the easiest of tap-in goals by the Vegas Golden Knights. They did swap the lines around a little bit, and man, when Iafallo was back with Lowry and Niedermeyer, they once again were an absolute wrecking crew. And Mason Appleton, who offensively has actually had the best start of his career, back up with Scheifele and Connor. Mike McIntyre, I believe, asked Arnie about swapping the lines and what he saw.
I switched everybody. I was just trying to, I was trying to get something going, switched our defense partners. Just really didn't like after, we gave up the 2 shorthanded goals. We got real sloppy there for the last 10 minutes of that second period, and it was kind of wide open, and just want to kind of reset everybody. And we got ourselves going again in the third, got some good shifts, and we scored that power play goal, made it 3-2, and we're hoping to make it a little bit better and then get another tough one.
I don't know what the totals ended. I think Vegas was upwards of 20 plus shot blocks. It's hard to get shots through, right? First period, I think they had 8, including a couple big ones on the PKs. So is that something Vegas does especially well?
Yeah. That's their DNA. If you watch, their playoffs all through, we saw lots of them, and that's what they do well. Their defensemen do a great job, and their forwards, of getting in the lanes and make it hard on you. You got to work to, 1, to get shots in, and 2, you got to work to find, if it does get down to the net, work to get rebounds and find those second, third opportunities.
All right, so there's a little bit of post-game from Scott Arniel after the Jets lost last night. And, Mike made a great point there, bringing up the amount of block shots that Vegas has. And, what Vegas has said, and we talked about this with Jesse Granger yesterday, they're more than happy to let you shoot from the outside, let you shoot from bad angles. That they're going to be in front of the net, dominating in front of the blueprint, making it almost impossible to really get in there and jump on those rebounds. But the Jets did bring a lot in the Vegas zone and the offensive end, but it wasn't enough. And now, Reem, this game tomorrow, and again, we're going to get into this with Ken. We'll get his thoughts on last night as well, and just where the team is as they get into the second 10-game segment and into Game 2 of this road trip. But as we've mentioned, if you haven't been paying attention to the Arizona Coyotes, you might think, oh, well, this is an easy one. That is not the case anymore in the NHL.
Man, I've watched the last couple of Coyote games. They have some offensive talent. Matthias Maselli, I don't know, was he nominated for the Calder? Didn't get a lot of talk, but he's got 8 points in 10 games. Clayton Keller, he's their top guy, 9 and 10. And Nick Schmaltz, he's a point-per-game player as well. They traded for Sean Durzi from the LA Kings. He's captaining their power play. He's got 7 points in 10. And Logan Cooley, giving Montreal fans a lot of regrets over picking Yuri Slafkovsky, number 1. He's got 8 points in 10 games and making a huge impact on their top line. And their second line's actually pretty good with Lawson Crost and Nick Bjugstad and Maselli, who I mentioned. So they're actually a pretty entertaining team, Arizona, and they play in the small barn. They were so good there last year. This is going to be a tough one. We'll see if they can sustain it throughout the year, Arizona. But in a weak division, I think they could definitely make some noise. So I've liked what I've seen in their last couple of games.
Well, the Jets are going to have to bring it tomorrow if they want to get 2 points out of Mullet Arena, and that's not something that we would have said, over the last few years, to be honest. Although they did have a good home record last year, they were always underdogs. And wow, look at this!
Okay.
We've got some advanced stats
this
here
is
on the Arizona Coyotes.
It's funny, we had on Mike Kelly at the beginning of the season saying, a lot of people are on the Arizona train, but that's a big jump to get into the playoffs. But he put this out yesterday, and this is before yesterday's game against Montreal. In ozone possession, they were first in time per game, first in slot passes per game, 12th in slot shots per game, second in cycle chances per game, and 11th in goals per game. And I think we're talking about special teams. their power play was also was definitely top. I think it was top 10. Let me just pull it back up, but it was much better than the Jets. So I think we can go with that.
Yeah, I mean, big night in the National Hockey League last night as well. I mean, controversial hit on Timothy Liljegren from Brad Chartrand.
Marchand.
A lot of talk about the response or lack thereof from the Leafs, and a certain shot on the bench that I'm sure is going to get a lot of run in the center of the universe. And then there's the Vancouver Canucks, 10-1 over the San Jose Sharks last night, Reem. And Craig Button tweeted out, this might be the worst team this century that we've seen in the NHL. And I don't know what they're doing. Listen, I know there's a lot of people that are in favor of tanking and just blowing it all up. But, man, when you're this bad, that can really, really harm a franchise for long term. And, man, it is going to be a long, long season out there in Northern California for the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, when you do that, well, first of all, I think you give a bit of a, I'm for teams trying to win. So when you do this, you're openly saying, hey, we're not trying to be competitive. And I think the fans there have responded accordingly. Showed it to Rob Williams, Rob the hockey guy on Twitter who covers the Canucks. He put out this picture yesterday. I mean, this place is empty. This was a top team for, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years, like selling out.
Decades.
Yeah, it's selling out, and there's nobody there. You have, the number one joke on Twitter was the Vancouver has scored more goals at the Sharks SAP Center than the Sharks have this year, or the Hughes brothers have more points than the Sharks combined. So I think the Sharks, they've scored how many goals this season? 10 goals in 10 games, minus 35 goal differential. They don't have
45. Oh my!
They don't have a win. Sorry, they don't have a win. Sorry, minus 35 goal differential. 45 goals against in 10 games. Team is, you said, a worst team this century. I was going to say worst team all time, because I guess the NHL's been around longer for 100 years, but or has it been 100? I think we're closing in on 100, aren't we? Anyways,
yes.
Who cares? They're really bad, and it's not going to get any better for them. So,
well, it's funny you bring that up and just how bad the Sharks are. I should quickly give a shout out to everyone that participated and is participating today in the Hockey Helps the Homeless tournament. I had the privilege of emceeing that event last night, and there was a hot stove portion of the program, which included the Babbage brothers. And Kurt Keelback was doing that, and Saad asked Dave to talk about what it was like being a Winnipeg Jet in his second year in the league when they went 30 games or whatever it was without a win. And to hear Dave retelling that story as a young player in the National Hockey League, it sort of got me thinking about the San Jose Sharks later on when we saw what was happening there with they're happening with the Vancouver Canucks last night. Long season in San Jose, and that is not a place that you want to be. Listen, we're expecting our pal Marshall Ferguson to jump in right away. Want to get Marsh's thoughts on the upcoming CFL playoffs. Just before we do that, congratulations and thank you again to all members of the WST Movember squad. The fellas are growing the stashes right now and helping us promote men's health. If you would like to support the cause, pull up that QR code right there, folks. You can hit that up. That's the Winnipeg Sports Talk team. We're well on our way to our goal right off. A great start right now, and thanks to everyone that's donated. A great stuff from Chris right off the bat as well. If you're listening to the podcast, the link is at the top of winnipegsportstalk.com. We'll be following the fellas throughout the month and hopefully raising some awareness of important men's health issues and most importantly, raising some important funds to help the important charities. So big thanks to Modern Man for joining us in this endeavor. And of course, Modern Man has 8 locations in Winnipeg, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway or Plessis Road. Guys got you covered with haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. A great selection of men's hair care products as well. Book your look via modernmanbarber.com. And hey, Whole home renovations start with our friends at Aquatech. You know them as the pool experts. Might not know that they have thousands of home renovations as the foundation for this side of the business, and they can upgrade any space in your home. If you're ready to enhance your kitchen, your bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home, talk to the experts at Aquatech. Visit aqua-tech.ca to learn more about their whole home renovations, including financing options. Well, the Jets power play maybe could use a new battery, but if your car or truck needs a new battery as we get into the Winnipeg winter, now's the time to do it. Get proactive and get a great deal at Manitoba Battery because they're quick starting winter with the sale that saves you an extra $10 all off the already lowest prices in town on car and truck batteries. You'll be shopping local, keeping your money in the market. You'll be getting the best price in town as they beat the pants off the big box stores. And the best part about it, Manitoba Battery will deliver it to you for free with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Get on over to Manitoba Battery. You can see everything available. Find more about the sale going on right now. And then order online or give them a call at 783-8787 for to arrange delivery, or pop by and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. They would love to pop by and give you a free battery check as well if you want to test your battery to see if you need it. The winter ready sale on right now at Manitoba Battery, $10 off all automotive batteries right now. And hey, the weekend is here. Might be a great time to pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and get some of Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, the Iconic Canadian Club. And speaking of iconic Canadian clubs, tomorrow's the day, folks. The Manitoba Liquor Mart's premium spirit sale and launch, which will include the 15-year-old Sherry Cask Canadian Club Invitation Series. It is a limited one-time release, $79.99, available tomorrow at Manitoba Liquor Marts for the premium spirits release. Would be a phenomenal Christmas gift for the whiskey lover in your family. So get on down, get them while they last. 15-year-old Sherry Cask Canadian Club Invitation Series, released tomorrow, $79.99. And a week from tomorrow, we'll be packing IG Field and enjoying some CC. And, of course, CC and ginger in cans, which you can also pick up at your local beer store, because Canadian Club Behind the Bombers All the Way is the official spirit of the blue and gold. But make it a CC weekend. Pop by your local Manitoba Liquor Marts, and remember, always enjoy responsibly. All right, let's get ready for a couple big games in the Canadian Football League. The regular season's behind us. It's playoff time. And who better to chop it up with than Marshall Ferguson of TSN. Marsh, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. There's only one man, as I just texted Michael, that I crawl out of the woods for to come and talk CFL. It's the Hustler. There's only one man that I just came out of a midweek camping trip. He said, "Hey, can you be on for this time?" I said, "You guys need me? CFL playoffs? I'm here, okay?"
I love, folks, of all of our guests. I mean, we love talking to Marsh, and it seems like he's always off the grid for an extended period of time and then just kind of plugging back in. What did I miss the last 5 days?
Yeah, it's a healthy work-life balance is what I would call it. It's probably negligent more than anything else, but it's a great way to challenge myself to plug back in. And I wish I could be more disconnected when I am off the grid. The reality is when the CFL playoffs come, I'm refreshing my phone every 10 seconds as I'm sitting at the campfire going, is Bo starting? Is Schilt starting? Is Bo starting? Is Schilt starting? I saw the Chernebeats tweet yesterday. What's happening? So I'm going crazy as much as anybody else on this stuff. And it's that time of year, man, where we go 21 weeks in the regular season. Everybody grinds away and tries to figure out what the league's going to look like. And then we hit a 3-week sprint. And nobody has any damn clue what's going to happen now that we've got the playoffs on Saturday and we've got a rematch of both last year's Eastern Semi and Western Semi, and everybody just dive bombs in, and we get to find out together what happens in these games and who goes to Winnipeg, who goes to Toronto. I have no idea.
Let's start off in the East. I mean, you did plenty of East games. I mean, you know the Ticats very, very well. Listen, Calgary and Hamilton did not look anything like playoff teams for most of the season. I think you can make an argument that both are trending in a positive direction at the most important time of the year. But give us this matchup in your mind between Montreal and Hamilton. And you mentioned the quarterback position right now. Are we really going to see both BLM and Matthew Schultz playing for Hamilton? How's that going to work?
Well, in line with your CC down at IG read there, and also your Movember read, I'm just going to give anybody who's listening on the podcast a little bit of local Hamilton sound on what happened when the depth chart got released earlier today. Just okay, that's what happened in Hamilton, all over Hamilton today when they went, "What the hell? Schultz is going to be the guy?" Like, we traded for Bo. We brought Bo in. We wanted Bo to be the guy. Bo, in the second game of the year against the rival Argonauts, go on to have a historic season, randomly hurts his leg. Then we end up going, okay, we'll figure it out. It's fine. We'll piece it together. Bo's back. Oh, it's fine. It's okay. Bo goes into Ottawa. It's the lowly Red Blacks. We'll be fine. He'll have a great game. 5 interceptions and breaks his leg. Okay, we'll piece it together. We'll figure it out again. Goes Powell and Schultz and whatever we need. Let's acquire Loxley. He'll be the third string quarterback. And I called week 21 last week, Hamilton at Montreal. It's not a playoff preview because it might be the same two teams. It might be the same uniforms. It's going to be a completely different game. But we're watching it, and I see the depth chart come out for that. And I asked Orlando Steinauer coming into the game, okay, who is going to be your starting quarterback for this game, and what do you expect your quarterback situation to be moving forward? And he says, we're going to start Kai Loxley. And I go, oh. He goes, I'm joking. We're not going to do that. That's not a thing. And I was like, okay, I get it. He's being cheeky with it. And it kind of set the tone for this week where he's like, we're going to start Bo. We'll back up with Taylor, and Kai is going to be our third string quarterback. And I said, interesting, because I would have thought, and this is the really, really interesting, not just for this week, but for these playoffs, if Hamilton wins this game, and also going into 2024, this is the incredibly interesting situation the Hamilton Tiger Cats are in. They've got Bo Levi Mitchell, future Hall of Famer, Grey Cup winner, all the rest, comes in, gets traded. He's the huge acquisition. He's supposed to lead everybody. He's been injured. He's been subpar from what I think he expected, the team expected, the fan base expected throughout the year. And then you've got Matthew Schultz, who probably deserves to be a starter in the CFL. I'll say that. I believe Matthew should be a starter in the Canadian Football League. Gets counted out throughout the year, gets dinged, loses his spot. Taylor Powell has to come in emergency. Taylor Powell's stats throughout the year, arguably better than Schultz or than Bo Levi Mitchell. Depth chart comes out. It's Schultz 1, who didn't dress in week 21, while Bo Levi Mitchell and Taylor Powell did. And then you've got Powell, outside man, looking in. That's incredible to me. And I'm not saying that's incredible because I think it's wrong. I'm saying it's incredible because the narrative of the full season has been, we're ramping Bo up, Bo's the guy, Bo has to go. In my opinion, they might have listed Matthew Schultz as the starter. I would not be shocked if Bo comes out and takes the first snaps of the football game. Or do they take Schultz, ride him until he fails, and see if Bo can save the day? Because Bo tried to save the day for Calgary last year in BC in the Western Semi Final, and Schultz came in last year in Montreal and tried to save the day for Hamilton. So are they reversing the roles, or is Bo going to start and Schultz will try to save it, or Schultz will start and Bo will try to save it? I have no idea who's going to play, how much they're going to play, why they're going to play, how they're going to be used. Hamilton's quarterbacking situation going into the playoffs is wild to me. I've seen Drew Tate, Kevin Glenn, Bo Levi Mitchell, this guy. In Saskatchewan, at times we've seen various double quarterback situations. I've never seen 3 quarterbacks where potentially the third guy isn't even going to get a sniff, and the guy who's number 2 didn't dress in the final week of the regular season, and the guy who was brought in to be the savior is listed as the backup on the depth chart. So it's the most, and I'm not even going to say confusing, because it's like, I understand that the depth chart doesn't always necessarily show you what's going to happen in the game. But in terms of presentation and whatever games Hamilton is playing, assuming they're playing games and not just following the script of what their depth chart says, I don't know what the hell's going on, and that's okay.
Well, I mean, it certainly makes for some interesting conversations. I would avoid betting on any passing props on the Hamilton Tiger Cats
I was
side
on
of
with
things.
Jim Taddy on TSN 1050 today, and I said, how are you supposed to bet a parlay of any sort or a player prop of any sort where it's like Bo Levi Mitchell, 255 plus yards? Do you take the over or the under? I don't know. Is he going to play? I have no idea.
Well, one thing we do know is that Cody Fajardo is the guy in Montreal.
Yes.
They are the home team. They are the favorite. How much of a threat are the Tiger Cats to Montreal? And how do you see this game playing out? I mean, what? Put it this way: what's the key to the path to victory for both sides tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah, so for Hamilton, I think the biggest concern is that if Bo plays, Bo has had a turnover-worthy play percentage this year, according to Pro Football Focus, of 10.2%. That is about 6% higher than the league average. The Montreal Alouettes this season have 9 defensive touchdowns. So for the Montreal Alouettes, if you can get an early turnover or two, regardless of whether it's Schultz or it's Mitchell, you might be able to turn that into really good field position or into a score. If that happens, then you're going to ask less of Cody Fajardo, which I'm not saying you have to, because he's made some pretty good throws throughout the season. But the reality is that statistically, Cody throughout this year has not really blown the barn doors off of anybody. So is Stanback going to be the difference in this one? Are they going to find a way to get Austin Mack into the fold in a way that he's healthier and flying off the page? Perhaps, but I really think this is a question of damage limitation for the Hamilton Tiger Cats offense, where stay in the game. If it's going to be low scoring, let it be low scoring. Do not give Montreal an inch, because I have a feeling, especially at home, you give Montreal an inch, and by an inch I mean a turnover, good field position, an explosive play in the return game. If you do that, the game might just run away from you. So for Hamilton, I think the biggest path to victory is just to slow things down, be patient, and maybe that's why they're starting Schultz. In all reality, like that might be their answer to all of this. On the other side, for the BC Lions against the Calgary Stampeders, BC has the highest average offensive pass play call percentage in the CFL. They throw it more on first down than anybody in the league. The Calgary Stampeders for a very long time have been extremely efficient at winning first down defensively. That means the ball is going to be in the hands of Vernon Adams Jr. up against a Calgary Stampeders defense that gets after you on first down, pressures you, makes you get the ball to your hands quickly, and then rallies to the football. Is VA going to sit back throughout the entire game and be patient, check it down, throw crossing routes, short little 5-yard out, and just try to live for 2nd and 5? Or, as his eyes have told him in the past, is he going to light up, see pressure on first down, and say, time to hit a home run? And then it becomes a game of risk-reward. Because if you miss the 2nd and 10, and the Stampeders defense will take advantage. If you hit, you might hit a home run, and that might be the difference in the game. So 1st and 10 is the money down in that game, in my opinion, and I'm really interested to see how that plays out, because I think that'll determine the Western Semi.
I don't know how much stock you want to put into the meeting between these two teams a couple weeks ago. It certainly meant a lot more for Calgary than it did for BC. And I mean, they put the starters out. They were planning on playing the starters, and then at halftime, they sort of reversed course and took VA out. The one way I can see Calgary winning this football game, I mean, the interior of their line is elite. I mean, they've got 2 very, very good running backs. And Jake Mayer hasn't really been good enough to kind of lead it and win these games on the back of his arm. Can the Calgary Stampeders run the football well enough to keep the BC Lions offense off the field, to win the time of possession battle, and to keep this game close well into the 4th quarter, at which point anyone can win?
I think it's a great question. It's a fair question. And I also think back to the Western Semifinal of last season. And the reason I do that is that, do we all remember who got pulled in favor of Bo Levi Mitchell in the Western Semifinal last year?
I do.
It was Jake Mayer. And the reason Jake Mayer got pulled from that game was he looked as though he was, I'm not going to say not ready, because that's not fair, like as a sports psychology perspective, like, oh, he couldn't meet the moment, all the rest. But it did look as though he wasn't willing to stretch the field because he was trying to be the most efficient player possible. And that was a big knock on them throughout the entire Jake Mayer 2022 era in Calgary, was this guy has to take the short stuff because they're not going to hit the home runs. They start the year this season trying to take all sorts of home run shots, and they're not able to pay off on a bunch of them. So they start, basically it's like 2022 was here in terms of depth of target, start of 23 was here, and as the season has gone on, it's kind of been like, and they've kind of like met in the middle and been like, refine. Who are our deep play guys? Who are the guys that we trust going deep? Who are the ones that we think we can hit on the shallow crossing routes? Who are the ones that are our playmakers? Who gives us the most yards after the catch? And so progressively, I feel as though the Calgary Stampeders offense has figured themselves out. And because they've met in that middle, what I'm really interested in this game in terms of Jake Maier trying to just go and get it, go and win it. Because let's be real, like so much of the Calgary Stampeders' success when Bo was leading them to record winning percentages and going to the playoffs and going to Grey Cups was about, as you say, the running game. But Bo made a couple of killer throws. Like Bo knew, very similar to Zach Collaros in Winnipeg now, in my opinion. The best quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League are not afraid. They don't have the ego that says it's not okay for me to lean into the rest of my roster being incredibly talented. The best teams in the CFL, the best quarterbacks, will lean on to everybody around them, but 3 or 4 times a game, they'll just say, F this, I'm going to go and get it, and make a throw that makes you go, whoa, okay, yep, they deserve to win. That was a playoff-worthy 18-yard out on 2nd and 12 after giving up a sack in the fourth quarter kind of thing, where it's like, that's a huge throw. That's going to change the outcome of this game. Jake has to make a couple of those throws to beat VA, straight up. If Jake Maier does not make a couple of those big-time throws, the BC Lions are going to win this football game. That's what it comes down to for me, because Jake can be as efficient as he wants. He could be 18 of 20 in the first half for 150 yards and a touchdown. And if he doesn't take a couple of shots in the second half that are 20-plus yards down the field that sink the dagger into that BC Lions defense, I don't think that Calgary has much of a chance to pull the upset in this one and go to Winnipeg.
Marsh, before we go, I've got to ask you about 2 players and teams that aren't playing. Argos Bombers. Many people assume or expect a rematch of those clubs in the Grey Cup again. But before we get to that Sunday in Hamilton, they will give out the MOP award. Chad Kelly, Brady Oliveira, who you got?
Brady. Like Brady's, and I'm not saying this because I'm on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I know, like I've heard people around the league making the case for Brady for a variety of different reasons. Here's the reality. As somebody who's called a lot of games in the East this year, I got a ton of respect for what Chad Kelly has done. It's not that Chad Kelly is surrounded by, he's not going to get the negative detraction votes because he's got a great team around him. Brady's got a great team around him too. Like that's why Toronto and Winnipeg are first in their respective divisions and deserve to be getting the bye this weekend, watching those games, getting the extra week of health, all the rest. Brady getting the MOP vote over Zach Collaros to me speaks to the amount of respect that people not just on his team or in that market in Winnipeg have for him, but specifically the amount of respect that people around the Canadian Football League have for what he has turned into, what he's developed into, which is a power runner, a hard-nosed runner, somebody that any down distance, field position, quarter, clock, doesn't matter. If you give it to Brady, you feel like good things are going to happen. That's a pretty special echelon to drop into. And to be compared statistically in a single season to the likes of a John Cornish, you're reaching all-time historical levels. Chad, again, great respect for it. I called a lot of Toronto games. He makes a couple great throws a game, which again, I just finished saying in the playoffs, you got to be able to have that. That's a big deal. But if you're looking at an MOP, I feel as though that quarterback better be top of the top in terms of stats, yards, completion percentage, touchdowns that are thrown, touchdown to interception ratio, passing efficiency. To me, Chad has not screamed best player in the league. He has screamed, and to his credit, he has screamed all season long, one of the best players on an incredibly talented team, and he's been able to lead a group of people without any ego. Like Chad has led without ego. He's been an incredible, I think, example to a lot of guys in that room.
Who saw that coming?
Yeah,
Swag Kelly.
100%. And it's the growth of him individually that I feel is, like, let's be real about this. Okay, Hustler, if Chad Kelly wanted to be an ego monster this year, he would have come in and thrown the ball as deep as he could every single time, ignored the system that Ryan Dinwiddie was trying to put him into, and he would have been aggressive. It's me. I want to put up stats, and I want to be the leader of this team in every single category, and I'm going to be the voice and the face. So many of his post-game interviews this year where it's about the guys around me. I got incredible protection. I love our running game. And he's really stepped to the side and said, I just want to be part of a great team and a championship team. It's not about, to me, getting back to the NFL with him, which is why I think he signed an extension in the middle of the season, because he was also sending that reasoning with what he was actually accomplishing contractually. But Brady, to me, is the one who has been a leader statistically and also emotionally for the team. Chad has been a part of a bigger machine that Toronto has been able to piece together this year. It's been incredible to watch, and I love the way he's approached this year. But if you're talking individual awards, most outstanding player, Brady Oliveira is the most outstanding player in the Canadian Football League this year.
Hey, Marsh, we just got a minute to go because Ken Wiebe's ready to go in. But very quickly, Sunday night, once we're finished with the CFL, your Bills taking on the Bengals.
Yes.
How you feeling about the Mafia going into this one?
You know what? I had one of my friends was at the Walden Galleria today in Buffalo, and I was able to just acquire a Josh Allen jersey for my 3-year-old son as of today.
Nice.
Via a friend, which I'm very excited about. The Mafia, we got questions. I think we're allowed to have questions. I think we live in fear of your Chiefs. And I also think that you see the game against the Giants, maybe some false positives available in that one, but Josh's shoulder being dinged in back-to-back weeks, don't love that. And I also don't love the fact that we had to rely on hurry up and getting the ball out of his hand as quickly as possible in order to find success against the Giants defense that doesn't deserve to hang with anybody throughout this season. So, yeah, I have high hopes, but I feel as though by the end of the year, this is going to end up feeling like a bit of a regression. And the Bengals scare the absolute hell out of me based on how they've looked out of the last couple of weeks, especially when you have no corners, which is apparently a sudden problem for the Buffalo Bills. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
and not a good one when Joe Burrow's slinging it to Jamar Chase, who's already getting ready to pay fines for touchdown dances on Sunday nights. Marsh, amazing segment, as always. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks in and around the Hammer.
I know. I'm looking forward to having you guys here. I will send you the details on the Ferguson hosting party potentially on Grey Cup Saturday. I will reach out to you.
That is what I'm talking about. Cannot wait. Thanks for doing this, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
All right, there's Marshall Ferguson at TSN Marsh on Twitter. Just phenomenal insight into the big games on Saturday. 2 o'clock Winnipeg time, Hamilton, Montreal, 5:30 Winnipeg time. It kicks off at BC Place between the Stamps and Lions, and around 8:30 we'll know who the Bombers' opponent is for the Big West Final on Remembrance Day, a week from tomorrow. We're going to get Ken Wiebe in here in just a second, and we'll be talking more Jets. Of course, the Jets finish up this roadie and against St. Louis on Tuesday, and then are back big divisional game on Thursday against the Nashville Predators. And then the first end of the Super Saturday doubleheader, Dallas Stars, 2 p.m. on Saturday. So get your tickets now, make your plans for it. And if you are thinking about a package or holiday gifts, it's all there at winnipegjets.com. I know they would love to get some of you that they've lost back and new fans on board as well. Hey, our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market have lots going on for Movember. Of course, if you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and Winnipeg's largest selection of local products too, get on down to one of 6 Vita Health Fresh Market stores or order online with citywide delivery at myvita.ca. It is Men's Health Month. Prairie Naturals offers Canada's #1 line of men's health supplements formulated to help the changing needs of a man's body. Prost Force is an evidence-based formulation of the key nutritional and phytochemical ingredients researchers recommend for prostate health. Prairie Naturals men's health supplements can help males address the challenges with prostate health, andropause, low libido, low testosterone, stress, male energy, and performance. And they're on sale all month at Vita Health, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 6 Winnipeg locations and online at myvita.ca. You all know that Wallace & Wallace are the fencing experts in town since 1946. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. What you might not know is they're also the overhead door leaders in town. And that overhead garage door of yours had lots of ups and downs this summer, but it's about to work a whole lot harder this winter because winter puts much more stress on a garage door. The right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Call Wallace & Wallace to book your inspection service and maintenance call today. For residential and commercial overhead door sales and service, there's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And just before we bring in Ken, got to give a big shout out to our friends at F Apparel, the leaders in menswear in Winnipeg. Guys, if you're looking in the closet and realize you need to up your menswear game heading into the holidays, do not wait. Get down to F at 190 Smith Street. Check out their custom suits starting at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. And don't forget, if you're getting married next summer or in a wedding party, talk to the fellas at F about a 15% discount for the entire wedding party when you get your suits at F Apparel. They're at 190 Smith Street downtown. Find out more online or make an appointment at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, live on location today is our good friend Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Ken, where are you setting up shop today?
Yes, good afternoon, Andrew. We had a team meeting at the Kenny and Rennie Clubhouse here at TCB today, so had a nice little lunch, little meeting of the minds, and yeah, ready to chop it up here. Last time I know when Sean joined you, it was in the tap room location, but it's so busy today, Huss, I couldn't find a table, so I snuck into the occasional meeting place where we have the live shows on occasion here. So Will was kind enough to open up the office here upstairs.
How busy were you and Rennie in the tap room? Are you coming in hot for a Friday afternoon visit to WST?
Just water, Huss. You know me. I like to be sharp for the shows here. But
well, speaking of
sharp, I may have enjoyed a fielder's choice before we went on here. Yes.
Speaking of sharp, the Jets just didn't seem to be sharp enough last night in a lot of different aspects. I thought Connor Hellebuck, could have been a little bit sharper. And I mean, listen, that wasn't hanging it on him, but he just didn't quite look as rock solid as he'd been in maybe in the prior week. Special teams, which we'll get to, continue to be a real issue for the Winnipeg Jets. But, man, the difference between where Winnipeg is right now and where Vegas is right now seems to be that team plays with a speed and a confidence and a commitment to doing, whether it's the pass, the shot, the breakout, just a little bit better than their opposition last night. And when the Jets gave up, the opportunities, Vegas made them pay. I thought the Jets played a real strong game in a lot of aspects, but when you add it all up and combine the special teams issues the Jets are having, not a lot of paths to victory against a team like that on the road.
Yeah, Huss, Vegas needs to be, if you play Vegas, you almost have to play a perfect game, Huss. Basically, that's where things stand. And it's funny, if you listen to Winnipegger Keegan Kolesar before the game, he wasn't primarily thinking they were playing all that particularly well. And the team itself was only really feeling great about maybe a handful or even half of the games that they played so far, but they've got the old proverbial finding ways to win. And yesterday, I would just say that the Jets were really good at 5-on-5, Huss. I think that sort of gets lost in the shuffle because of the bang-bang nature of the two power play goals in the second period. It kind of caused a lot of the good work the Jets were doing to be undone by the two bad line changes during the double minor to Mason Appleton. And then, then Vegas did what Vegas does. They put the old Python grip on them and sort of sucked the wind out of the remainder of the game. And then it didn't really allow them to get back into it. So, with the exception of the, late sort of power play, you
heard what Scott Arniel had to say. I have to admit, I kind of agreed with his assessment that they wilted a little bit in the second half of that second period.
Sure, yeah.
But listen, I'm not going to take anything away from the effort that they put forth in the third. I thought they came out still believing that they had an opportunity to get back and win this hockey game. They got that goal.
Sure.
They put a ton of rubber towards Logan Thompson. They scored on the power play and got a little bit more traffic and busy in front of the net. But again, you make one mistake, they make you pay. They did that on the Marchessault goal, and all that hard work and all the momentum that they built in the early part of the third was for naught, and that was pretty much curtains.
Right, and I mean, even go back to the second period. I mean, right before the Barbashev goal, Adam Lowry has a 2-on-1 rush, shorthanded, and it's a good chance, but it goes over the net. They come back the other way and kind of bang it home. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I think that the Jets could find a lot of clips in the video session to say, hey, they were good at this, they were good at that, they were good at that, but the inability to convert with a little bit more frequency just was costly. And Huss, I said it on the show last night on Kenny and Rennie. I mean, to me, this reminded me so much of the 2018 Western Conference Final, where the Jets fought so hard to get back in the game. Like this time it was a power play goal, but Vegas scores almost on the next shift. Whereas here, the Jets score, they take a penalty 13 seconds later, and then all of a sudden it's bang, bang. They score on both ends of the double minor. And all of a sudden, all of the good things they were able to kind of start stacking. It sort of was, you know what it's like to walk to the rink in Vegas to T-Mobile. They got the Jenga games set up outside the beer house in the open area, and you took one from the bottom, and it all kind of came crashing down. I mean, you're right. Jets do a good job of getting the power play goal to make it a 1-goal game, and then give one kind of right back. And after that, that's what I meant. I mean, it wasn't the whole third period where they were in the Python grip, but once it got to 4-2, that to me was really, curtains, because the Jets didn't really, I mean, there was pushback, but I didn't think the game was ever in doubt after that. But I mean, this is the way it is. This is not a Jets problem. This is a league-wide problem. The Vegas are giving teams league-wide a problem right now. They've lost 1 point so far this year out of 22 available. So that tells you a lot about how they are structurally. Were there opportunities for the Jets? Of course there were. I mean, that's good news for them. They're creating, but you have to almost play a mistake-free game in order to beat them. And the Jets, unfortunately for them, just made a couple of costly errors that ended up in the back of the net. And like you said, they just weren't quite sharp in a few areas. Now, again, on the fourth goal, a lot of people are kind of like, well, what happened to Dylan Samberg? Well, I think it was more losing his balance there. Alex Pietrangelo does a great job in the net drive. There was a little bit of incidental contact, and that allowed the puck to be like kind of kick out to Marchessault. And you're wondering, well, where is everybody? Well, it wasn't that Samberg played it poorly. It was that once the incidental contact happened, and then he kind of blows a tire, and then you're kind of looking and you're like, oh, well, it went to Marchessault and there's nobody near him and it's in the back of the net. I mean, that's just kind of opportunistic goal scoring. But again, that comes from a smart net drive. And I mean, earlier on in the game, Dorofeev makes a great pass to Carlson. That's a good play. I mean, they don't miss on a lot of those opportunities, Huss. And right now that sort of came back to bite the Jets, I guess, if you will. But I mean, we knew this was going to be. Looking at this 3-game road trip, there was no doubt what the toughest game on the stretch was. It was last night. So that's not to say it's a cakewalk the rest of the way. Arizona's playing well. They're kind of in a virtual. They passed the Jets, I think, in points by 1, but it's going to be a fun matchup there. And then Tuesday, you got to, what's always a tough matchup with St. Louis, but, early season measuring stick, and Vegas has done a great job of not allowing the Stanley Cup hangover to be prevalent. Not only is it not prevalent for them, it's non-existent for them. Even though they'd like to find another level. I mean, their B game or B plus game is better than a lot of teams' A games right now, and that's a scary proposition for the league.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Ken, we'll get to the Arizona and St. Louis challenges in a minute. But I mean, this entire week, this entire season, game after game after game, special teams the Jets continue being on the wrong end of that, and that's not a recipe to success in the National Hockey League. I mean, I guess I'll get you to touch on the issues on both sides, but it seems like the power play is more of a concern because of how frustrating it is to see when it's stale and things aren't happening and the momentum that you lose. And I think going into last night's game, we might say, well, I think the more concern is on the power play side of things. But the results on the PK speak for themselves. They've had one game this season where they haven't allowed a power play goal. And last night, it was, as you mentioned, shout out Dennis Bayak, bang, bang, and it was 3-1. What do you make of the Jets' special teams problems? And Well, which side of it is more easily correctable going into Arizona?
Well, that's the big thing is a team can survive if one of their special teams units is kind of letting them down or not performing up to par. But it's difficult if you have both of them struggling or operating below usual efficiency. And the bigger concern for the Jets right now would be their penalty kill, because right now it's 30th and last year it was 7th. So, and primarily you have a lot of the same personnel, and the only personnel, I mean, you're augmenting your penalty killers by bringing in a guy like Alex Iafallo. So conceivably the penalty kill and Rasmus Kupari. So it should be getting better rather than, diminishing or deteriorating to a degree. Now, yesterday, or in the Thursday game, I mean, this isn't a structural issue. It's a bad line change issue. So to me, that it's easily preventable. Like, that could happen once in a game, but for it to happen twice, it's kind of inexcusable. So I don't blame, that's not coaching. That's players making a bad decision. And, I don't know if it was maybe missed in the scouting report, but like Logan Thompson has the ability to pass it to the far blue line to Mark Stone, who therefore moves it forward to Marchessault. I mean, that's not a structural issue with the penalty kill being too aggressive or too passive. That's just a bad line change. And, on the other one, it was, just a clean rebound that, Petro makes a good play off the pad and Barbashev's there to bang it home. But I mean, there was a bad line change there also. In terms of the power play, I thought there were some signs of life. I mean, obviously they get a goal. It's not garbage time. I mean, the goal happens and makes it a 1-goal game. So, I mean, it's an important goal for them. It's a look that they haven't gone for a lot of high slot redirections. And for Kyle Connor to get that one-timer lane to open up, the defense or the opposition has to respect the fact that there is a pass available. So, two smart things. Cole Perfetti makes his stick available. Kyle Connor finds it. And then there's some a fortuitous bounce at the end of it that goes off Alex Iafallo. But the bounce happens because he goes to the right place. So, I mean, more net front or better traffic. Those are two things the Jets have been talking about a lot. I mean, now you got to have the crisper puck movement. I think you need to bang some shots a little bit quicker. I think, in a perfect world for the Jets, when their power play was kind of peak efficiency in the Patrick Laine era, you had 3 shooting options at times, right? You had Buff at the top, you had Patrick Laine in the one-timer slot, and you had Mark Scheifele in the high slot. Right now, they don't have 3 dangerous shooting options that they're contending with. I mean, they have 3 guys that can really rip it, but right now, Mark Scheifele hasn't really been unloading any one-timers from the left flank, and right now, Kyle Connor has sort of drifted far enough back towards the boards that it's going to be very difficult, even with as great a shot. He
doesn't score from there, ever.
Well, I mean 2 years ago he did, but I mean, it hasn't been happening lately, right? I mean, that's the thing. So
I think I saw a stat that it's been like a year and a half since Kyle Connor scored from, outside the hash marks.
Right.
And I mean, this goes to what they actually ended up doing to be successful. At a certain point, you need to muck it up in front of the net. I mean, we saw what the Rangers did. I mean, now the Jets don't maybe have a Chris Kreider, and I know there's been people that have thought that
they do not.
Maybe you put a Lowry in front of the net. Maybe put it this way: Alex Iafallo did what they needed him to do, be in that spot to give even the opportunity of a goal or a rebound. And I thought they seemed to jack that up as the game went on, and they had the they didn't have that success. But I mean, there's no easy fix. Although I'll just quickly get your thoughts on Cole Perfetti in that spot. I think there's a lot of potential with the skill set that he brings to the power play. Thoughts on how he fits there and how he might be able to change the way the power plays looked up until the last couple games that he's been in?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the word processor all the time with him, right? I mean, we often talk about vision and passing and playmaking and all those things, but it's his ability to anticipate where the play is going next. I think that will allow him to be really successful in the high slot and bumper. I mean, it was interesting in the first, I thought that was where he was going to be, but when I asked Cole about it before the team left for the road trip, he thought he was going to be the net front guy, but he's quickly flip-flopped with Alex Iafallo into that role, where that's the other thing, Huss. If Mark Scheifele is not going to be as much of a shooting option, at least not a one-timer option, then the only way that it works for him to be doing the stick handling on the hash marks is if Cole Perfetti becomes the one-timer option that he used to be for Blake Wheeler, his close-knit support from the high slot. Now, if they can get that going, Now you can maybe open up some ice down low for Iafallo, or you can open up some shots from the top for Morrissey, or then you go top and across for Kyle Connor, one-timer. Now maybe if that can be happening quickly enough, then maybe that's available. And then the other option would be like the old school Blake Wheeler past Scheifele to Laine. Now maybe Scheifele gets that pass to Kyle Connor, but it's a tough pass to connect on. So I do think that Cole Perfetti can give that line a boost, and that's not to say that Nikolai Ehlers can't. I just think that right now, as currently constituted or constructed, Ehlers as the primary shooting option on power play 2 is a better option right now because Mark Scheifele and Nikolai Ehlers have not found the sweet spot, and both of them basically want to play the same position. So unless one of them is moving elsewhere and creating, which wasn't really happening as often, then moving him to the second unit makes sense to me. Now, I mean, the other option, you could try moving Scheifele to the second unit, but that doesn't give the second unit a shooting option. So for me, outside of, I know they've tried this in the past, going strong side with Scheifele and Connor, maybe you're creating more of a button hook downward plane wrist shot or snapshot rather than the one-timers. I mean, that you could see. But Huss, the biggest thing for the Jets, they need more motion. When they were going early in the year, they had interchanges in motion. That's what set up the Alex Iafallo power play goal against the Oilers. And that's what helped them, have Ehlers and Scheifele coexisting, but they got too stagnant and stationary. And when that happens, you can throw a blanket around them, and they're not as dangerous as they need to be in order to instill a bit of fear on the opposition. Because right now there's not a lot of fear on either one of those units. And I think that it's easier for the penalty kill to get sorted out because we know this. The golden rule of penalty killing, the best penalty killer is the netminder. So I would say the Jets have an easier time getting their penalty kill on track because I think structurally, once their reads are a little better with their aggressive nature, when you have Hellebuck behind you and playing sharp when he's been at his best, that one's a little bit easier to correct. And the other thing too, like you said, Huss, I mean, power play is what people look at primarily is because it often leads to goals, right? Penalty kill does its job. It doesn't impact the score sheet in terms of a goal being allowed. But when a team is giving up at least one every game, that puts added pressure not only on 5-on-5, but for the power play to kind of counter because otherwise you're playing catch up the entire time. So,
well, and that's what is, listen, it's so frustrating right now watching this team because shift after shift at 5-on-5, they're more than holding their own. We've been so accustomed to having an elite power play and a top level group that it's been somewhat surprising when these goals have come in that have gone in on them. But I keep going back to the power play, and Ken, this. I mean, you can be dominating a game at 5-on-5, and you get a couple power play opportunities and do nothing with them. I mean, it can really suck the wind out of your sails and negate any positive momentum that you have. And we've seen that happen on a number of occasions over the course of the last couple of weeks as this power play has struggled.
For sure. I mean, you saw it Saturday in Montreal. You saw it Monday against the Rangers. I mean, and there too, I think if you're showing clips, Huss, I mean, Adam Fox gets it off quickly and Kreider goes to the net for the tip, but there were two guys in front for the tip, right? I mean, lots of traffic, quicker shots. I mean, these are things that the Jets aren't when they have those opportunities, the lanes don't seem to be there. That means you got to move it a little crisper, right? So I would think that based on the talent level, they should be able to sort out the power play as well. But the other part
just
too,
quickly
Huss,
on that, did you see, it's funny you bring that up. And I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about the Rangers power play just because of how good it's been, the success that they had on Monday. But as the power play struggled early on, and then we got into that third period and they got that goal, I mean, from my perspective, and I'll get you to speak to it, it seemed like they said, okay, enough of this ripping around. Let's just get some more traffic in front of the net and get more pucks to the net and good things happen. I mean, did you see a more renewed commitment to doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it was one of those situations where Kyle Connor was probably frustrated that there wasn't much there, so he looked for something that hadn't previously been there. I don't know that the Jets said on the bench, let's try a high slot tip or make sure we're in the goalie's eyes. I mean, everyone knows that you have to do that, but I think it just sort of things kind of came together. And that's the thing. Sometimes all it takes is kind of a greasy one like that to happen. And then maybe you start feeling better. Now you're moving the puck quicker. Now you're getting more lanes. Now you're getting more shots. But I mean, let's also not forget, Vegas is one of the most elite teams in terms of shot blocking, both at 5-on-5 and on the penalty kills. So something that might not have been there on Thursday against Vegas may be open to them on Saturday at Mullet Arena. But I mean, the other part of that too, I think from what I remember, the game in Mullet Arena last year, Arizona's also, at least last year, was incredibly aggressive on their penalty kill. But that can be a benefit to the power play as long as the passes are precise and you can create a 2-on-1 or an odd man situation elsewhere, whether it's in the slot or on the back door. So it'll be interesting, Huss. I mean, it's early in the year, but now it's a 10-game sample size. So, I mean, it's still small-ish, but it's not just a minute sample size. This is when a team is near the bottom after a 10-game block, then you get to the point where it needs to change quickly, or else, as we know, Huss, much like chasing points in the standings, it's tough to kind of you got to chip away at it, but it's not like you're going to go on a heat. Like you'd have to go on like a 20 or 30 stretch on the penalty kill to kind of get your percentage up to be in the top third rather than being in the bottom third. But things can change really quickly. Us that much we know, but we know the Jets have easily identifiable and correctable issues. I mean, it's just a matter of execution now, because most of what they're doing, even last night, Huss, the Jets had a fairly decent disparity when it came to high danger chances at 5-on-5 against one of the best teams in the NHL. So that has sort of been, as you mentioned, that's what's caused a lot of the frustration for the fan base. And don't get me wrong, if it's frustrating for the fan base, what do you think it's like for the players and the coaching staff? I mean, they're also the ones that are watching it, and the players are living it. They're going out there 5-on-5 and thinking, man, we got to either bear down on our chances at 5-on-5 or do a better job on special teams. And when they do both, then they'll be dangerous themselves.
You mentioned the 10-game segment, Wiebe. 4-4-2, I mean, that projects to be 82 points. You're going to miss the playoffs by 15 if that is the case. But when you look at the Central Division, there's so many teams right in and around it. The Jets are certainly in the mix. But if you're Winnipeg, whether it be the coaching staff or the players, and you look back at this 4-4-2 start, they certainly did play some tough teams, including 2 regulation losses against Vegas. Their 5-on-5 play overall has been really good. The special teams has been a disaster, and Connor Hellebuck has had certainly a week at least of a slower start. Do they feel good about where they are? Should they feel good about where they are, considering the issues they've had at some things that really hamper it? Or is it frustrating to look back at the way they played at 5-on-5, knowing that the points certainly were there? I mean, you can make the argument the team should have a much better record than they are. Like, how do you think that they look at this first 10 games and what that means moving forward to start another 10-game segment tomorrow against the Yotes?
Yeah, certainly things to build on, Huss. I mean, I would say that even though, I mean, we've often referenced the 2 periods against LA, I mean, maybe there's another period or 2 in there that they maybe didn't particularly love, but I don't think the Jets played well enough to be 8-2, Huss. I don't think that 4-4-2 is that. I mean, could you say 6-2? I think maybe if we're talking about what you might have expected based on how they had played, especially at 5-on-5, you might have expected 6-2-2 rather than 6-2-2 instead of 4-4-2. But I don't think the Jets played well enough to be 8-2, for lack of a better term. Having said that, they've got a lot to build on structurally. I think that a lot of the things that we thought about this team in terms of their forward depth have, come to fruition. Certainly room for improvement. Certainly certain players got off to slow starts, like Nikolai Ehlers. I think there have been signs of him sort of coming to life. Cole Perfetti has adjusted nicely to the move to the wing. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, certainly, getting some things done. But there's another level for those guys to reach, even though Connor's off to an incredible start when it comes to the goal scoring. Top line has been quiet. I wouldn't say quiet, but not as loud as they could be when they're playing at their very best. And Huss, here's the thing. We've talked about this in years past. there haven't been a lot of nights when both the Scheifele line and the Nemesnikov line have been going at the same time. So a lot of those other nights, the Lowry line had been very dominant, along with one of the other two lines in the quote-unquote top six. And the fourth line's been steady. I mean, Gustafsson has 2 goals already. I mean, Morgan Barron's got 2 goals also. So, I mean, I think that there are signs for the Jets, but there's also room for improvement here, Huss. So I think Dennis Green special. The Jets are who we thought they were. They are a bubble team. They've spent the majority of this 10-game or 9 games of the 10-game block they spent, or I guess not 9, but at 9 games, they were still third in the Central. So they slipped down into a wild card spot. So I don't think that that's cause for a huge concern. But the other part of that equation is there are teams below them in the standings that we expect to play better. So 4-4-2 isn't going to be good enough probably come April. But I think the building blocks are certainly in place for them, Huss. But I would say there's a lot of players that have room to grow. There's a lot of players that have been playing well, but I would say that they're in a position where, they are a bubble team. Can they finish third in the Central? Absolutely they can, but they're going to have to continue to elevate their game, Huss. What I would say too, last year the Jets had the best start in franchise history, and it amounted to almost nothing in terms of the end. It did help them get into the playoffs.
I got them to the playoffs because they played like one of the worst teams in the league for 2 months after the New Year's.
For sure. My point being, Huss, that the Jets would rather be playing their best hockey in February, March, April, but you also can't afford to sleepwalk up until January because you can put yourself right out of it. So I think that they're in a decent spot, but with plenty of room for improvement, but also plenty to build on.
And that brings us to tomorrow afternoon. And Ken, I mean, if we look at the Central Division right now, I mean, the Blackhawks, the Blues have had rough starts. Minnesota is really struggling. They lost 4 in a row. The Predators are 4-6 on the season. This game tomorrow and 2 weeks from Saturday here in Winnipeg, these head-to-head matchups against the Arizona Coyotes might not have seen when the schedule came out that they could be that important. But I would say that the Winnipeg Jets and Arizona Coyotes, if they continue kind of where they're at right now, are going to be in a battle for another 72 games. And this game tomorrow and that game in Winnipeg, very, very important head-to-head matchups when we talk about playoff spots, wild card, and getting into third place in the Central.
Yeah, I mean, I would include St. Louis and Nashville and Minnesota all in that same kind of conversation, even though, as you mentioned, the Blues have struggled at times and haven't really got much going offensively. But yeah, I mean, if the Jets want to finish behind Dallas and Colorado, you got to be better against the teams in your division. I mean, 2 losses to Vegas at the start of the year, I would say, I'm not saying they were expected, Huss, but I mean, that's the team that's best in the league. So those losses don't bother me, and I don't think that they would concern the coaching staff because both were winnable games for them, Huss. 3-3 in the game against Vegas, they took a penalty. Alex Iafallo, it hurt them. This time, it's a 1-goal game. It's a tie game. Then later on, it's a 1-goal game after it's 3-2, and they couldn't convert. I also don't think you should make the argument that the Jets deserve to win both games against Vegas. Vegas was the better team in a lot of fronts, and they got the job done. But having said that, it's not like they got blown out of the water. So it's measuring stick, and right now the Vegas is just a little bit better than Winnipeg. So that's reflected in the standings. So I agree. They're going to have to win those games against Arizona, and the Jets aren't going to get to beat up on San Jose, Huss. I mean, they're not playing a team that has 10 goals for in 10 games and is 0-9-1. They play them 3 times. That's it. So that means you got to win your other games when you can, and you're not going to win all of them, but you need to play well in those games, and that's why I think it's important too. And I think too, I should have finished my thought about. I think the Jets. I mean, obviously we saw Scott Arniel went to the blender in the third. I think Alex Iafallo is playing well, but I think that top line needs something else right now. Whether it's Nino Niederreiter, Nikolai Ehlers, Cole Perfetti, I mean, they can decide what they want to do. But right now, I don't think that line has been generating as well as they were early on in the year. And I'm not blaming Alex Iafallo for it. I'm just saying that right now it doesn't seem to be clicking at the same regard, even though Kyle Connor scored a dangleitis beauty the other day. They just haven't had a lot of sustained pressure and second and third opportunities. So I would be tempted. I don't know. Sean doesn't agree with me, but I just think that you can't just rely on the third line to carry the team. And, moving Alex Iafallo down onto the third line, if they move Nino Niederreiter up, I don't see that as a huge downgrade there either. I think it still would give them enough scoring opportunity, but with enough defensive awareness to be able to go up against, Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley and some of the other.
I just love to see them find a mix in the top six that works, that allows Niederreiter and Iafallo to play with Lowry, because to me, that line is like, when they have been together, they have been absolutely dominant. And listen, Appleton, I'm not sure is a great fit up on line number one.
Appleton's played his best hockey with Lowry, though, Huss. So that's why I say I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But I just think that you need to. Niederreiter is a proven 20-plus goal scorer, right? 7 times. So I think he gives you the best chance to get sustained offense, but having the ability to do some of the digging things and provide a physical presence that will help Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor kind of go on a heater of their own. And I don't think that you'd lose anything on that third line with Iafallo there. And as you mentioned, Appleton's producing nicely, but he's produced his best results with Lowry also. So Lowry can't play with everybody. So you're going to have to give somebody up top, whether it's Perfetti or Niederreiter, or you want to try to get Ehlers going. Any of those options make sense to me. And as I mentioned, Alex Iafallo, 4 goals. I told you early on, Huss, I think Alex Iafallo scores 20 goals, but I don't think it necessarily means he has to play with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor to get to 20 goals.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, Nino has been a consistent 20-goal scorer. I think Adam Lowry's showing that, the way that they play when those guys are together, they'll get their chances. And I think playing with those guys on it, give them a much better chance to do that on the reg. Just to finish up, I mean, we mentioned this Arizona game. We were sort of talking about this Central Division right now. The more I think about it, Ken, and I know we're only going into game 11 of the season, but this could be one of the most important weeks really of the year when you look at the schedule for the Winnipeg Jets. 4 games, all in the division. Arizona tomorrow, St. Louis on Tuesday, then back at home for Nashville, and then moving up a weight class against the Dallas Stars. I mean, to say the least, there is a lot on the line. Big picture for the Winnipeg Jets in these head-to-head matchups against their division rivals.
Oh, is it ever, Hassan? And that's part of the fun, right? I mean, everyone's trying to figure out where they stack up and how they measure up and all those great cliches. So you're going to get to learn a lot about the Central Division this month, and that's good, because teams are going to want to learn what they have to do in order to kind of get a leg up in the conversation and in the battle. So I think it's great to see, and it's a massive week for the Jets in terms of seeing those opponents and trying to maybe get a little bit of separation, Huss. I mean, they passed their first test, right? The Elliott Friedman test is within 2 points or 4 points on November 1st. Jets were inside the line, so next target is American Thanksgiving. You got to be in that spot or within 4 points by then, and then you sort of see what happens. Otherwise, I think if you're outside of 4 points or 4 points out on November 1st, it's like a 15% chance. Now, that's not to say no one can do it, but I'd rather be in the 85 percentile than the 15%. So I think we're going to learn a lot. I mean, Logan Cooley's playing great for Arizona. Excited to see him, and can't wait to see him live on a couple of occasions in the next stretch here. But yeah, I mean, it's a team that plays still pretty loose defensively. So if the Jets continue to play at 5-on-5 the way that they have and can clean up their special teams, I mean, that's a game that they should be right in. Karel Vejmelka certainly has given the Jets fits at times, but see what a Saturday afternoon special brings for him. And I'll be curious. I mean, I wonder if Laurent Brossoit is going to get Saturday or get Tuesday. I mean, I'd be curious, because you could make a case for either way. And I just think that he's going to need to play one of those 2 games if they want to keep in that rotation, where it's tough to get to 25 to 27 if you're only playing, 2 out of 11 or 2 out of 12 or 2 out of 13, right?
And the next start, I think, for LB is going to be a big one, because
for sure,
he's been in for a couple, and just hasn't looked quite like he's been at the top of his game. Wiebe, I guarantee you, well, we'll look forward to the KNR tomorrow after the Coyotes game, but a week from Saturday, what a day show ahead. After the Dallas game, as we get into the Bomber game, will be big. But I think we'll have well, we'll be able to talk about 4 big divisional games and hear what you guys have to say about where the team sits. Have a great weekend. We'll look forward to the show tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, you as well, and I hope it's a great weekend at the downtown barn for Daniel Fink and covering those Manitoba Moose. Should be a fun weekend ahead, and they're off to a pretty fantastic or pretty solid start on a lot of fronts there as well, and I'm sure they want to play get a little more home cooking in them here.
You got it. Well, we had a great chat on the show with Brad Lambert, who has had an awesome start, and we're going to get to the Moose right away with Fink, and then Hacksaw on some marbles. Say hi to Rennie and the gang.
Beautiful.
We'll talk to you later. Thanks, pal.
Yeah, have a great weekend, Huss. Thanks for having me, my man. Cheers.
There's their pal Wiebe, of course, Winnipeg Free Press, and on Twitter at Weeb's World. Just before we get ready for the Moose weekend with Fink, who's on the bench at Canada Life Center, we got to thank our friends at Princess Auto, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them at one of 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road or Portage Avenue West. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Don't forget, next Saturday, 3:30 p.m., doors open to the Princess Auto tailgate party outside IG Field before the West Final. Speaking of that West Final, weather actually looks pretty good, but it's 5:30 kickoff. You're going to need to bundle up. If you're looking for a new Bomber scarf or toque, or just looking for some new great Bomber merch to round out your playoff attire, get on down to Royal Sports. Tons of exclusive pieces of Bomber merch you won't find anywhere else. And that goes as well for the home Winnipeg Jets. Thousands of pieces of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, tons of new exclusives, and of course, all the jerseys fully customizable just in time for the holidays. And you can pretty much bang off all your holiday shopping in one spot for the sports fans in your circle at Royal Sports. And don't forget, when it comes to hockey, for 40 years, Royal Sports has been the local, family-owned experts in hockey, with players working there to make sure that regardless of age or skill level, getting you fitted up with the best to bring out the best in your A game. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina right now for the latest merchandise drops, holiday gift ideas, and sale information. And wow, big day tomorrow. 2 big CFL playoff games. Jets in the afternoon. Hockey night in Canada. Might be a great time to post up at your local Boston Pizza. Enjoy those world-famous BP wings, a few ice-cold schooners, some gourmet pizza, all the great new offerings on the BP Appy menu, and watch the games on the big screen with the big sound like only BP can provide. Hey, if you are staying at home, you can get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, down we go. Rinkside with the Fink as we get ready for a matinee doubleheader Saturday and Sunday for the Manitoba Moose. Dan, what's going on? How are you?
Not too much. Just getting ready for the weekend. Looking forward to a couple of good games against the Rockford Ice Hogs. Life's good, Huss. Hockey season is in full swing now, so it's busy, but life's good. So hope everybody watching the show is doing well, and you and Remo too.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on. And listen, I'll first plug our show earlier this week, I believe Tuesday. If you missed it, make sure to go back onto YouTube or onto the podcast and check out. We had a great sit down with Brad Lambert. And what a start he's had. And the young players of the Moose, we knew that there was going to be a real influx of young top prospects from the Jets organization to the Moose this year. But what a start the team's had, and it has been led by so much of that new blood.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned having Brad on the show earlier this week. He leads the team with 9 points in 6 games. It's been an excellent start for him, especially when you consider he had 3 points in, I believe it was 14 games last season when he was with the team. So he's found a way to be much more effective offensively, much more consistent. He's been pretty solid in his own zone as well. So it's been a nice evolution to see. You're always curious to see how a player develops and how things change. And even watching from Jets preseason into the Moose season, there's been those steps taken for Brad Lambert. So it's been really exciting to watch. But like you mentioned, he hasn't been alone. Nikita Chibrikov's right behind him at 8 points, leads the team with 7 assists. So when you're coming into a season where a lot of the skill entering your lineup, a lot of the new players coming in aren't free agents that you've signed. They aren't guys coming in from other organizations necessarily. They're your own homegrown prospects, but they're very young. You're always curious to see how long it takes those guys to get going. Well, good thing for the Moose that most of the young guys have been able to acclimate quickly, and you hope that they're able to develop that consistency, because the season, it's not 9 games long, Huss. It's 72 games. It's a long, long winter, so you hope that they're able to keep that rolling all the way through. Obviously, you want to see a guy stay on that 9 points in 6 game pace. That would be great, but it's what's happening in 15 games, what's happening in 25 games, and I think that's where some of the challenge is going to lay for these young players. There's going to be a slowdown that comes in eventually. It's how do they handle that and push forward as the vets continue to kind of seem to roll into pace to catch up with some of these young guys that got off to a great start.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because, obviously from a Jets perspective in the future, we are, very interested in how's Brad doing? How's Chiprikov looking? What's the latest with Chaz Lucius, who's been in a non-contact jersey over the last few days? But I have to ask you about Kyle Capobianco. How good has he been this year so far? And what's he been like in and around the room? Sometimes when you get sent to the American Hockey League, different guys handle it differently. By all accounts, he's fit right in. And I think he must be happy to be playing such a big role every time the team's out, after spending a lot of press box duty last year as an extra defenseman for the Jets.
Yeah, and I can't speak to how last year went for him, obviously, but from everything that we heard, he was really good in that role where he didn't play a whole ton, but was one of those guys that's great around the room, and so we were excited to get him with the Moose. And as it always seems to, sometimes guys take a little bit to adjust back into the American Hockey League. It can be a little more frenetic, or guys try to do a little too much, and that may have been the case early for Kyle Capobianco. And once he kind of got back into the flow of the American Hockey League, you can see why the guy has over 100 points in, just over 160 games now in the American Hockey League. But he had that game where he rattled off 4 points. And you know what? He's wearing 22 with the Moose. And for the poor play-by-play guy up in the booth, you look down, you're like, who's this center leading the rush? Oh, no, that's just the defenseman that somehow has already flown the zone and is getting the lead pass. So he, kind of fits into what the Moose have had over the last few years, where they've really been led by offensive defensemen like Declan Chisholm, Ville Heinola, Leon Gavanka, these guys that were always up in the rush. So it's kind of familiar territory, I think, for assistant coach Eric Dubois, who manages the D side of things. And right with him is a newcomer as well, and Artemi Knyazev, who is all sorts of fun chaos on the ice. So the Moose maybe a little bit worried that they weren't going to have as much offense coming off their back end this season with graduating guys like Chisholm and Heinola up to the big club, and seeing Gavanka depart in the offseason. But those two have certainly brought that fun element off the blue line.
Dan Fink's live at Canada Life Centre, where the Moose will host the Rockford Ice Hogs Saturday at 2 p.m., Sunday at 2 p.m. Tee up the weekend for the fans, and what will be awaiting them if they get out to see the games.
Well, as we've been talking about, if you want to see the young guys performing, this is the place to come. You've seen a good start for Brad Lambert, Nikita Chiprikov. We were mentioning Artemi Knyazev, and the offense and the skill that this team can bring, of course, has a lot of depth through that forward group and has been very solid through the defense. When you have guys like Ashton Sautner, who scored 2 goals last season, scoring twice in that win in Texas to get the team the win, everybody's pushing in the same direction right now. So that's great to see. The on-ice product's going to be a lot of fun. The Rockford Ice Hogs have a fast, skilled team. They returned a lot of guys from last season, especially when you look at guys like David Gust and Brett Sini, Joey Anderson, who joined that team late. They're a handful. They've graduated some players up to that Chicago Blackhawks group, but like the Moose, have added in some exciting young players as well. So should be a very interesting matchup. First time these two teams will see each other this season. So it's always been a fun rivalry, a very, very close set of contests. Maybe not like the Texas Stars, Manitoba Moose, close set of games, but it's been a lot of fun over the last few years, and the Moose are probably happy to not see Arvid Soderblom at the other end, because he's given them fits over the last few years and has graduated up to the NHL. But should be a lot of fun off the ice. We've got the Manitoba May Day on Saturday, so celebrating everything Manitoba, and of course, what would that be without our pierogi giveaway at the end of the night? So that's obviously a big one to get out to on Saturday. Take home the great pierogies. And then on Sunday, it's the team poster giveaway. So first 3,000 fans through the doors get that very cool looking team poster. I think you can find it on our social media accounts, what that looks like. Pretty good representation of a lot of guys across the whole lineup. And as well, if we got any season ticket members watching the show right now, remember that after that Sunday game is the season ticket member exclusive full team autograph alley. So be sure to stay a little late for that one. And if you don't have a season ticket membership, be sure to check out moosehockey.com/packages for information on more of the cool benefits you can get as a Moose season ticket holder. There's my plug for that one. If you're just looking to come to one of the weekend games, moosehockey.com/tickets. And of course, all of the games as well.
Have a great couple calls on the weekend. Hopefully the herd can keep things rolling. Thanks for doing this, Dan.
Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. There's Dan Fink. 2 p.m. Saturday, 2 p.m. Sunday. And we are running the contest through today's show. WinnipegSportsTalk.com/contest. Enter there for tickets to Sunday's Manitoba Moose game at 2 p.m. down at the rink. All right. We're going to get into a big weekend in the National Football League with Hacksaw in just a minute. Don't forget, gang, December 6th, save the date, a little WST holiday jam down with our friends at Little Brown Jug. All are invited. We'll have details next week on just reserving tickets. Obviously, we've got limited space there, much like we've done for the sports trivia nights. And we will be raising some money for the Christmas cheer board. So working on some fun things for that. But December 6th, save the date, Little Brown Jug. And of course, the weekend is here. Nothing will make that weekend go even better than a trip down to Little Brown Jug or your local beer vendor to grab some 1919 or generic or your favorites. And don't forget, make sure to follow them on Instagram and Twitter because they're going to be playing some Bomber and Jet games coming up. It won't be every game. It's not, but they're going to be moving in some TVs and getting that set up. So we'll certainly get out there to watch a game some point soon, but they'll have all that information. littlebrownjug.ca for more information on everything they've got going on. Their social media is a great spot to check that out as well. And hey, bottom line is it's Friday, time to crack one. You can find Little Brown Jug anywhere in the city that sells great beer. And don't forget, now available at Canada Life Center and Craft Beer Corner and over at IG Field. And just before we bring in Hacksaw, big shout out to Nick and Nikki, DQ. It's actually pretty nice outside over the next little bit. Blizzard weather, the good kind here in Winnipeg. 3 locations for Nick and Nikki DQ, DQ Polo Park, DQ Northgate, and the DQ in Niverville. And they're also doing gangbusters business at the brand new Pita Pit in Niverville. If you're in the neighborhood, pop by. I mean, healthy, fresh, delicious, fast. But they also do great catering. If you've got needing for catering or school lunches, holiday parties, birthday parties, Nick and Nikki would love to take care of you. Fire them an email for details at niverville@pitapitmb.com or on Instagram and X at Pita Pit Niverville. All right, we got a big one in Frankfurt to get going on Sunday. We got some massive matchups, and we've already seen a coach and GM get clipped this week. So let's bring in the man himself, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. You know the website, leehacksawhamilton.com. Follow on Instagram. Check out his podcast on YouTube. Saw, what's up? How are you?
You're looking good on a Beer Friday. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I cannot wait for Sunday. Obviously, my Chiefs playing in that early game against the Dolphins. But just before we get to some of the stories around the league and the games on the weekend, that Thursday nighter was hilarious. We were talking about it in the lock shop. We said, well, the one thing I know is that there's going to be a lot of field goals. This game will be tight. And I just have a feeling that somehow, some way, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to find a way to win a game despite looking very underwhelming in the process. And that pretty much happened again. 4 wins now, Lee, where they have been trailing going into the fourth quarter. And in the Super Bowl era, I believe they are the first team to be 5 wins in the season after being outgained in all 8. How is Mike Tomlin getting this done?
Mike Tomlin's done an unbelievable coaching job, and he's been very patient with his under fire offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. There's been an awful lot of heat that they needed to make a change. He stood by this guy. They're still not doing a lot of great things dynamically. They don't play very well offensively in the first three quarters. In the fourth quarter, they turn the thing on. Here's a funny sidebar story for you. I'm married to a girl from West Virginia, Steeler fan. Has to watch every Steeler game. When last seen, always yelling at the TV over interceptions, the ineptness of the offense, yelling so loud that she scared the golden retriever. But that being said, this team has played really, really well for Tomlin. Obviously, defensive side of the football, they keep him in games. I don't understand why Ken Pickett has been so slow in the first, second, and third quarters, and it's like somebody throws a light switch on and he's completing passes. They did get Deontay Johnson back. That's a help. On the other side, the young wide receiver, George Pickens, who I think is a star in the making. Their tight end, if he's on the field, he catches passes, but Fiermuth, who's had some injuries, kind of pedestrian running attack. They don't have a lot of team speed there. I don't think it's a complete roster right now, but tell you what, Tomlin ought to get some votes for Coach of the Year, because what he's done with this miscast offense and to hold this defense in there has been really, really impressive. You know, and the other side of the dollar bill is Tennessee has just been ravaged by injuries, and they're just a shell of what they were before. Although I think the general consensus now, the number one draft pick, this quarterback, Will Levis, in his first two starts has played pretty well for the Titans. But Mike Vrabel's got a big rebuild ahead of him. He's got some age. His offensive line's been shredded by injuries. They do play really tough defense, but defense can't play 48 minutes a game. So Tennessee's gone through rebuilding, and how Pittsburgh's doing what Pittsburgh's doing in a really tough division. That's the other piece of this discussion, how rugged the AFC North is. And Pittsburgh's in second place right behind Baltimore. They're just a game back. And you got Cincinnati coming alive. And if Cleveland ever gets healthy, then we'll see how complete Cleveland can be. But that's a tough division. And the Steelers have 5 wins. Go figure that out.
Everybody over 500 in the division. I mean, the Bengals right now, hot team. Big matchup on Sunday night, which we'll get to. You look at, they're at the bottom of the division based on the tiebreaker right now. It's crazy. You know who's not going to win Coach of the Year this year? Josh McDaniels. He got a pink slip earlier this week, as did the general manager. I mean, it's just an absolute mess in Vegas with the Raiders. I will admit I love it. But Lee, who's to blame for this mess, and where do the Raiders go from here?
Do you understand that Mark Davis is now paying 2 guys a combined $40 million not to coach? John Gruden, who's not hireable, and now Josh McDaniels. Think about that outlay of money to guys he hired who failed or flamed out.
McDaniels has 4 more years, I believe.
Yes, they owe McDaniels 4 more years on his contract. Now, I don't know if McDaniels is going to move to Haiti or whatever, or Samoa, and vacation the rest of his life, because I think he is a football junkie. And as a head coach, I always thought he was a really good offensive coordinator. I don't think he's a real good head coach, as witnessed by his career record now of 20-33. And he's been fired twice in under 2 years at the 2 head coaching jobs he's had. The bigger picture is the owner. And the owner is incompetent. I'm sorry, Mark Davis, you're not Al Davis. He inherited this franchise. I think he took over operation when Al Davis passed away in 2011. Their record is 80-102 since Mark Davis took over. They've had a lot of general managers go through. He's going to look for his 8th head coach since he took over. He keeps making bad choices. And I always view the Raiders, at least under his run, as always attracted by the shiny object off there in the corner. I got to have that player. I'm going to trade for that guy because it's a shiny name. I'm going to hire this coach. None of this stuff has worked out. And now they sat Jimmy Garoppolo down, and they're evidently giving up on him because of injury and how poorly he's played. And he's had nothing but success. His record's 43-20 and nothing but injuries. And they just can't go any farther. And get this, when they cut him, and that's the rumor that they're going to let him go at the end of the season, they're going to take a $25 million cap hit on top of everything else that's happened there with the Raiders. And they've not survived the trauma of John Gruden. They hired him and Mike Mayock, the TV guy, to come in and run it. Virtually every one of the John Gruden draft picks over that 2.5-year run is gone, either out of football, playing for somebody else, in some cases in jail. It's just a horrific situation. And Raider fan runs around like nothing's wrong. All Raider fan thinks about is Is it Sunday yet? Can I put the paint on, put the gear on, and get drunk again? I'm just wondering, is there ever going to be a fan insurrection in Las Vegas towards the operation and the ownership of the Raiders? Because I'll guarantee you, in every other city in the world, they'd be freaking booing. They'd stop buying tickets. It'd be empty seats. And instead, Raider fan, drunk, shows up and enjoys the day. Am I right or am I wrong?
You are nailing it, Lee. It might have happened in Oakland. It does not happen in Vegas. And you'll continue to see visiting teams roll into that place, take over it on a weekly basis. And we won't spend too much time on the Giants-Raider game this weekend. That one, I don't think that is a destination viewing. The early game, though, is I've got major FOMO right now. I've got a bunch of friends sending me pictures from Frankfurt, everyone getting ready to see the Chiefs and Dolphins go at it in Germany. Might be the best international game the NFL has ever put on, Lee. What do you make of this matchup between 2 6-2 teams? Chiefs coming off that ugly loss to Denver last week. And interestingly enough, traveling there yesterday while the Dolphins got there 2-3 days early. What do you make of this matchup?
Just be honest. How about full disclosure? You wish you weren't doing this podcast with me today. You'd rather be over there drinking beer in Frankfurt with the Germans. I've been there. I've done NFL games from there. It's kind of a cool environment. Frankfurt's a really, really neat city. So just be honest with the people. You'd rather
I'm
be
honest.
there.
I think everyone knows that is true. As much as I love our chats, I could, if I could be there, I would right now. But I'll be watching it like everyone back on this side.
Yeah, Miami is number one in offense in the NFL. They're averaging 453 yards per game. They're not only throwing it with Tua and this fast break offense, they're also running the ball. Nobody pays any attention. In fact, the Dolphins are averaging 151 yards per game on the ground. So you got Miami at number one offense. Kansas City's growing. Now, they're not what Kansas City's been during the Tyreek Hill era, but they're fourth in offense and they're fourth in defense. Their defense is really athletic. And I think the general consensus is Steve Spagnuolo's done a hell of a job drafting athletically, much faster defense, but they're going to have their hands full covering all the stuff that Miami comes off the line of scrimmage with. So that's going to be fascinating. Kansas City, here's the stat nobody pays attention to. Kansas City's got 16 turnovers already this season. They're just not the same offense. And Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift can't do it by themselves. But Kansas City, I think they'll move the ball on Miami, but I think the burning question is, can Spagnuolo's people hold up? Because we know what Tua and those guys are going to do. This is just going to be a fascinating game. One quarterback's completing 70% of his passes, Tua. The other one's completing 68% of his passes and getting a little bit better. Last week was kind of a real aberration to think what the hell is going on in that Kansas City loss, but they're too good with too good a coaching staff to struggle. And there's an intangible question here. The two games that Miami lost this season, they got the crap beat out of them. I mean, Philadelphia and Buffalo mauled them. So there's a big question around NFL circles. How really tough are the Dolphins? Are they just a bunch of beach boys that kick sand on all these poor teams, but when they play the big boys, they get blasted? So keep an eye whether Miami holds up to what Kansas City's going to try to do to them with Chris Jones and what can be a hyperactive defense to go after the quarterback. But, yeah, hell, I wish I was with you in Frankfurt, hip and bruise in the German pub before game time today.
Wouldn't that be something? Hacksaw, it's a great weekend if you're going to watch football all day but just focus in on one game. Because after that great kickoff in the morning, you go to the early slate, and there's a lot of dog games, but there's one to me that stands out. It's Seattle at Baltimore, two first-place clubs. What do you make of this matchup?
You got Baltimore's defense, which is superb. They got 35 quarterback sacks. They are just killing it on the defensive side of the football. And usually when you think Baltimore Raven football, all conversation gravitates towards Lamar Jackson. He's having a hell of a season. He's completing 70% of his passes. I think he's doing too much of the offense, throw, and then running a lot more. But their running game under Gus Edwards, it's starting to get healthier. They've never had the full complement of wide receivers on the field at the same time because either the rookies get hurt or Odell Beckham is in the game, then he's out of the game because he gets dinged. I don't think we've seen the best that Baltimore can be offensively. It's going to be tough for Seattle, even though that game's going to be played in front of the 12th man. Those 12th guys are not going to be on the field against Baltimore's defense. Geno Smith has not had a statistically dominant season that he's had a year ago this time. Kenneth Walker can run it. They're 3 deep at wide receiver. They finally got all of them, Metcalf and his buddies, back on the field. But that's Baltimore's defense. Baltimore's defense is rugged. You're correct. This may not be a pretty game. This will be defense beating up quarterbacks, but I think it's going to be a really good football game. And then you add into the equation, Seattle just made that big trade at the deadline to get the huge defensive lineman from the Giants, the former Jet Leonard Williams, and he's a really good player. So that's going to be an upgrade to a Seattle defense. So this might not be a sexy game to watch. It might be kind of a street fight, but I think it's going to be a good game. And you're correct. This game's really important for Seattle. This game is equally important for the Ravens.
Well, I mean, in Seattle, you got the Niners losing 3 straight, and on the bye right now, they could really kind of strengthen their spot at in first place. Before we go, 2 other marquee games: late afternoon game, Dallas at Philly, and then the night game, Bengals and Bills. What do you think of those 2, Lee, and who you got?
Philadelphia's got 25 quarterback sacks. They do come after your quarterback. But tell you what, Dak Prescott, his last 2 weeks have been magical. And he's done that in the face of really good pass rush. They're starting to hit on all cylinders there in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb is averaging 13 yards per catch, and he's finally broken out to become a real established star. This will be a challenge because Philadelphia's defense is good. Now, conversely, Dallas's defense gives up 287 per game. That's phenomenal. Quarterbacks only complete 58% of their passes against Dallas, and Dallas is going to go chase down Jalen Hurts. This could be a good game. I think Cowboys are the underdogs because that is Philadelphia's Super Bowl team. But nothing really stunned me here because I think Dallas's defense is grossly underrated. It's tremendously athletic. I think it's going to be a really good game. Cincinnati-Buffalo, if Josh Allen does not turn it over, that should be a Buffalo win. But the game is in Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow has finally gotten healthy. And now we're starting to see Joe Burrow be Joe Burrow, which means all those wide receivers are making things happen, and they run the ball with Joe Mixon. This will be a huge challenge for Cincinnati's defensive coordinator because Josh Allen sure got a lot of bullets in the gun. But this game will be at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, so maybe some home field is in the way here. If Josh doesn't turn it over, I think Josh beats Cool Joe. Pretty good football game, though.
Cannot wait for what should be just an incredible NFL Sunday. I know you've been busy on the gram. You've been cranking it out on YouTube, but it all starts at LeeHacksawHamilton.com. What's cooking at the website heading into a big sports weekend?
Well, my website is all written. If you like sports, with apologies in advance, it's better than the newspaper. There's a ton of information. If you check it every morning, you'll know everything there is going on in the world of sports. And I do write stuff about your religion being the NHL. So there's a ton of hockey that is also part of it. And I get that. And then obviously you got my podcast that you can get to off. The link is right off my page. It's all your fault. The numbers we're turning by podcaster and Instagram are just totally out of control. It's taken up way too much of my time. But as you and I both know, this is, quote, a pleasure, a love, and I'd rather be doing this job than some other job out in the street. But tell your people to subscribe. It's absolutely free. There's nothing in the world that's free except watching your podcast and subscribing to the junk I do this side of the border.
Keep on cranking it out, my friend. Great chat as always. Have an awesome weekend. We'll catch up next week.
Yeah, we should have been in Frankfurt this weekend doing it remote. Good to talk to you, Hustler. Be well.
Take it easy. There it is, the one and only Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Huge NFL weekend coming up. And don't forget, if you want to tune into that Chiefs-Dolphins game, it's an 8:30 a.m. start, Winnipeg time. But good news, if there was ever a day for us to get an extra hour of sleep, this is the perfect weekend to do that. So anyways, great stuff. And again, head up Lee's website. It is phenomenal. All right. Marbles. We'll do last call for marbles right now. Everyone, if you haven't already, or if you just jumped in, put !marbles in the chat. Let's do a quick look at the Coolbet lines. The lock shop went live at noon over on the Edmonton Sports Talk channel. If you want to see myself, Dusty, and Pat Gregoire give out all our best bets for the weekend, they're up there for you. NHL tonight, only 2 games. We've got the Buffalo Sabres at home against the Philadelphia Flyers. These 2 teams played just earlier this week on Tuesday. Buffalo winning a game they maybe didn't deserve. I do like Buffalo tonight. Might even hit the puck line, -1.5. Urson in net for Philly with Carter Hart being out. 157 on the money line for the Sabres, +133 for the Philly Flyers. And the Devils, after another big road win last night, they're right back at it in the division, beat Minnesota. Now they're taking on St. Louis. New Jersey -145 favorites, and the St. Louis Blues +123. We also hit the CFL playoffs and a little bit of line movement. We got in on Hamilton at +4 when we were in the lock shop. That number's come back to +3.5. But the line has also moved in the BC Calgary game, was 6.5. It is now 7. So BC laying a touchdown at home in the West Semi. Alouettes 3.5-point home favorites in the East Semi. And as far as the NFL goes, a couple of the big games that we talked about. Chiefs 2-point favorites over the Dolphins in Frankfurt. The Ravens, that game is in, I think Lee mixed that up, but that game is in Baltimore. Ravens 6-point favorites at home against the Seahawks. The Philly-Dallas game sits at 3 for the home Eagles. Eagles 3-point favorites, and the Bengals 2-point home favorites against the Buffalo Bills in the Sunday Nighter. They've got the week 9 specials as well. If you want to bet on who has the most passing, rushing, or receiving yards for the week, as well as the highest scoring team and the highest scoring game. But I will direct you to the exclusives. We hit another partner parlay last night on the same gamer for the Pittsburgh game. I think we've hit 3 of the last 4 we've done for those standalone NFL games. But we always love putting together a little partner parlay, the 3 of us. We've adjusted a couple of the lines. We've got the Bengals to win. Bengals money line, not dealing with the 2-point spread. Bengals to win. Eagles -2.5. So we just got that down a half point. So a field goal win by the Eagles would be a win. And we took an extra 1.5 points with the Eagles, with the Seahawks, I should say, and teased that up to 7.5. So Seahawks +7.5 in Baltimore, Eagles -2.5 against the Dallas Cowboys in Philly, and the Bengals to beat the Bills at home. That one, when we put it in manually, was +450. And our friends at Coolbet have given us an even better number, +490 right now. You can get that in the Coolbet exclusives. And if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST when you make your first deposit. Hook you up with a 100% bonus up to $200 over at Coolbet. All right, well, it's been a great show so far. Awesome guests. Michael Remis, now time to get into the weekend officially with the little marble race.
Yeah, everyone's coming out here for this marble race. How many entries do we have? I'll close it up in a sec. 218 entries. Amazing. It's like the first time we have more. Actually, that's not true. We have 218 entries and just about 200 likes on this video. Pretty impressive stuff. So if you're already here, hit the like, subscribe. Should I just get it going? Am I closing this down here? Getting the
let's close it down right now. I know it's been open for quite a while.
Yeah, 2:45 it opens, and people seem to know us.
By the way, shout out to Mason and Ken. I think they're going to come by tomorrow and grab their hoodies. And I got to apologize to Chris Seymour, who we had a little bit of a mix-up when he was coming by to grab his hoodie earlier this week, and didn't know that he was there. But anyways, Chris, I'm going to hook up with the other guys tomorrow. If you're around tomorrow afternoon, or fire me a message, let me know where you're at. We'll try and get you that again. Apologies for missing you the other week. Listen, while you do this, Remis, let's get a little Tristan Rivers music to officially get us into marbles time on WST. How about that?
Yes, let me pick a song here. I don't know if you have any particular one that you want, or just screw it. Just pick whatever I feel.
Dealer's choice. You're in charge of the Tristan Rivers accompaniment.
Okay, here we go.
yes, the yacht rock version. Bravo Bry, loving that one in chat. That actually is one of my faves. Not that I normally like that style of music, but when it's cold outside, we got snow on the ground. Good vibes heading into the weekend. And again, there'll be a lot of TV watching this weekend because the Jets are on the road, the Bombers are off. But we got playoff football in the CFL, a full slate of NFL, and I'm actually looking forward to this afternoon game tomorrow, Reem, and then getting right into that West Semi, seeing what happens with the Stamps and the BC Lions.
Yeah, I think anyone here is going to be watching that game. We're going to do our pre-scout for the November 11 showdown at IG Field. I think it's going to be BC, but it's the CFL. You never know. Calgary played BC pretty tough earlier this year, but BC at home. Going to give it to Vernon Adams. Like, which VA are we going to get? The VA from the beginning of the season who wasn't turning the ball over, finding the receivers, or are we going to get the opposite? So I don't know. I don't think when you look at the CFL QB stats, Mayer is up there, but only because he played every game. I don't know if anyone's really sold. He's not the third best QB in the league. He's third in yards, and he's got 19 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 85 efficiency
Very average.
rating.
Very average.
That's not comparable. I mean, Caleris 112, Chad Kelly.
They got to run it down their throat. If Calgary's going to be in, or even just in this game and cover the 7-point spread, I think they can do it. But to me, it's going to be all about Kadeem Carey and that offensive line and whether they can run the ball effectively. Can they move the chains? Can they keep the BC offense off the field? And I loved Marshall's point about the BC first down efficiency. And what Calgary might be able to do to set up some second and longs. All right, where are we going today for the marble race?
Yeah, let me just put in these marble track names. Is there any bonus names? Brad Lambert?
Yeah, Brad Lambert definitely gets one.
Brad Lambert.
For joining us today. Give the Fink one too.
Fink, sure. And we'll put Marshall in because if we come to Hamilton, he's going to need one.
You know what? For sure. Marshall for TSN Marsh, our guy.
Sure. So I got those. We got 230 marbles in the marble race. And I did do a pre-scout today. Scouted some tracks. I'll give you the names here. I got to write on. They're funky track. Let me load them up. Here. 1 second. Where is it?
BA split. I heard a rumor Dusty isn't doing the Grey Cup. No, Dusty's not doing the Grey Cup. Rod Smith's doing the Grey Cup. He's got to put in another year or two. However, I do believe he will be there, and I think he's going to be doing the radio broadcast. Not that we have any TSN stations anymore to play them. So,
Are they actually going to have a radio? Didn't last year it was big controversy? They just played the TV broadcast over the radio.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was a little bit Bush, and Dusty would have been happy to do it. It didn't work out anyways. I don't know all the behind-the-scenes things, but from talking to him in the lock shop, he's going to be there. We're going to be there, and we just need the Bombers to be there. We'll find that out next week. All right, what do we have here? The Cosmopolitan Kingdom.
Yeah, we got Cosmopolitan Kingdom, My Monster Project, Favorite of the River, and Abstract Bonus Academy.
And you've done these all?
I've done them. I think the Bonus Academy was my favorite.
All right, well, let's do that. I was going to say we could do My Monster Project because we had Halloween this week, but I'm not.
If you want to do it, we can do it too. It was a funky track. I'm good for anyone.
All right, well, as I say, you're the one that has the knowledge of it, so I will leave this in your very capable hands.
230. I mean, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like Halloween themed Monster Pro. We could do it another week. It's just a title.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, let's do the Abstract Bonus Academy then.
I don't know who names these. They all have the weirdest.
I think the creators name them.
Well, they do, but there seems to be some convention to naming these. I don't know what.
You are right. You are right. It is a little weird, but anyways, shout out to We Love Marbles, who created this one. All right, you know how this works, folks. First marble in the bin is the winner. I got to give a shout out to our friends at Shipham and Associates for the hoodies. While we're at it, while we're getting into the marble race, in the chat, let's do just a quick playoff version of the Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp in Waverly and McGillivray. In the chat, who's winning the East and West finals? You've got to take Hamilton or Montreal, and you've got to take BC or Calgary. Put that in the chat. Why Not question of the day, Not Autocorp, Waverly and McGillivray. And with that, we get into a new track. We Love Marbles, Abstract Bonus Academy. Let's drop them on a Friday afternoon on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Okay, we've got the big. What do we describe this opener?
I don't. It's like
not
a
quite
clock
Plinko.
or something. Like a Plinko mixed with a grandfather clock. I don't know what you call this thing.
It is a very, very wild one. All right, we can see a ton of marbles in here. Who's going to be the first one down to get out of it? It looks like Boba Jets in a pretty good spot. I think Craig Smith's there. By the way, Craig, love those picks that you had. I'm with you on that Cincinnati as well as Philly. Oh, Boba Jet just went over the top rope. We're already seeing some eliminations here.
That jump, they can't survive
Many
it.
eliminations. That jump got quite a few. Jeff Bowe's looking good right now. Bye-bye Blake actually in first. Our guy Craig Smith right in the mix. There's Paul Carr. Michael Lay, accountant to the stars. What's up, Mike? But Craig Smith, bye-bye Blake, Jeff Bowes, Paul Carr, Michael Lay, our top 5 right now. Jason Jett, Dale Berzuk in the mix as well. A very interesting new track, the Abstract Bonus Academy, in its debut here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, Craig, bye-bye Blake, Jeff Bowes, all there. Very nice getting through here. Now we're in the spinning globe, or orb, if you will. Who's going to get out first? I see Jerry Beluta's in there now. Jet Oil Tom's in the mix. And look at that. Rick Stokely in there. Craig Smith and Fink. Fink with a big performance right now. Max Jones, Mrs. Jones in it as well. But WST regular Craig Smith with a, I would call this a commanding lead right now. We still do have a few more obstacles, though, so we'll see. But a full revolution ahead of the secondary. And Marshall Ferguson's in the mix as well. Let's see how Craig can handle this one here. Oh, Craig gets a nice push through. He is in first place and in control of this race right now. That's an elimination. Heartbreaker. Rick Stokely, heartbreaker as well. Rick Book's been put in. Wow, our top 2 leaders just got whacked so close to the end. Jeff Bowes is there. Gary Labossiere is in the mix. Gary and Jeff, looks like they're first. Jeff Bowes. Marshall Ferguson, are you kidding me? Marshall Ferguson, our guest earlier today. I guess we're going to have to bring him a WST hoodie out to the Grey Cup in Hamilton. An incredible, incredible race today. Just
That was wild.
an amazing end. Look at TSN Marsh getting the win. Trevor Red Ranger in second. Peg City Hawks fan third. Mrs. Jones fourth. Gary Labossiere fifth. And then Jeff Bowes, Eric Bayer. How about Amanda with the top 10 finish? Nicely done. Val L. and the Fink. Just an amazing race, Remis, and an all-time comeback at the end with a couple of very unfortunate eliminations for Craig and I believe it was Ken. But Marshall wins. Incredible.
What a
People
track.
liking the track as well. People can... Jeff Bowes is right in the minute. Eric Jurlison, Marshall's marble ran like Brady going up the middle. Doug Phil, Marshall ran it right up the gut for a TD. That was great. And waiters, that is a Dustin Nielsen trademark. What is happening? An incredible end. Marshall, Ferguson, TSN Marsh. What a moment. We'll have to text him and let him know. I wonder if he stuck around. He didn't know we were giving him a marble, but we'll have to get his size and make that happen. Hell of a track, Remis. People loving that one.
I'll have to write this one down, the Abstract Bonus Academy. I thought Craig Smith was going to take it, but there was that little gap in that jump, and he just couldn't. A lot of people fell victim to that. Cowboys
in there. Our buddy Gitch, 21st, not too bad. Tristan Rivers Music at 30. As we keep on going down. Oh, Big Ukes there. Uchaz got in the marble race. Right on. There's a lock shopper from Edmonton joining us after the EST guys were finished up. We got, there's our pal Dan Milburn, the Earl. What's going on, Dan? 54th. Mike Lay. Mike, you had such a great start. Ended up at 60th. I'm not sure what happened. Hey, Mary Jane, one of our favorites. Nicole J. T. Konopali. You know him. And Cody Caron as well. You know, there was just as we finish up, and I think it might have been Cody, like at the start of the show, that mentioned this, Remis, because we were talking about the Jets. And he said, listen, what we really should be talking about is Winnipeg's own Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, who have apparently made a tag team now in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
They are 3-0. But you know what the name of the tag team is?
What?
The Golden Jets.
Really?
Yes.
Come on.
I haven't watched it. I got a PVR on Wednesday, so I'll have to go and check that out. But yes, according to, I believe it was Cody in chat, Winnipeg legends of the squared circle, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, tagging together as the Golden Jets. You have got to love it.
Man, are they taking on Sting and Ric Flair? Because all I'm seeing on my timeline is that Sting is about to retire, and Ric Flair, who wrestled his last match last summer, which I watched, and he's back in AEW. It's kind of strange what's happening with that promotion.
I agree. Any comments on this? I got to get the shot down.
Ric Flair, 74 years old. He's taking on AEW. Very nice.
Cody Caron, yes, LOL. Yeah, and Kabilis. AEW slowly morphing into WCW. The Golden Jets. I'm going to need to watch that. You know what? We may have to. We may definitely have to talk about that a little bit more if that is the case. Tico Napoli, Haas, do the Bisons play UBC this weekend? Damn right they do. They're up against it. We talked about that with John Hodge earlier this week. After that insane way that they got off the mat and made the playoffs last week against Calgary. Hey, maybe they can carry that momentum into the weekend. Good luck to the Bisons, pulling for you. And great comment from Craig Smith, who just mentioned that earlier in his year he might have had that dexterity to stay on the track. But Craig, we know you're with us each and every day. We love you. You'll have another chance to get that elusive WST hoodie. Today was Marshall Ferguson's day. Thanks to Marsh for jumping on. Thanks to Hacksaw. Thanks to Fink. Thanks to Kenny Wiebe. Again, if you're looking for live sports this weekend, head on down to the arena for the Manitoba Moose. 2 p.m. tomorrow, 2 p.m. on Sunday. I think I might take in some of the Sunday game. That early slate of NFL games is quite underwhelming, and then roll into that Eagles-Cowboys game a little later on. Great Sunday nighter, and I will be up early to watch the Chiefs and the Dolphins. But tomorrow, 3 o'clock afternoon start from Arizona. K&R will do their thing afterwards, a legal curve as well, and I guess a busy day for the IC boys because they'll have their regular Saturday morning show as well. Great week. Thanks to everyone that joined us. Thanks to everyone that played in the marble race today. Have an awesome one. We appreciate the sponsors. Thanks to all of them for making this show happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a great weekend, everyone. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Good luck with any wagers you might be making over at Coolbet. Good luck to the Jets tomorrow, the Bisons, and Monday we'll break the hockey game down and start counting down to November 11th in the Bombers and either Calgary or BC at IG Field for the trip to the Grey Cup. Have an awesome weekend, everyone. Thanks for hanging.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.